Terry's in his prime. Mr. Terry got the groove. On YouTube he makes the move. Hit play, learn and see. Travel through history. Spending time with flashing lights, from the days to the nights. Every video holds a clue, history that's fresh and new. Black one's famous, screens glow, bringing past life to show. Learn the tales he brings alive. Mr. Terry's in his prime. Mr. Terry got the groove. On YouTube he makes the move. Hit play, learn and see. Travel through history.
We did it. We did it. We did it. Hey guys, what is up? How y'all doing tonight? All right, so I've never done a live I've done live reactions, not like live to streaming reactions. But we have the VP tonight, and I kind of wanted to experiment with this idea of doing this because I was thinking about potentially doing I want to do something for election night. I want to do something for election night and want to see how this would work in my sort of community. If you guys are into that, if you guys will be respectful. I'm giving you, this is your chance. Don't ruin it for everybody, okay? Don't ruin it for everybody today by acting out of line, okay? Hear that, the teacher? I'll let you guys work in partners today, but if you ruin it, we're never doing it again. Will you behave yourselves? That's going to be the issue. Anyway, first off, I know, so like Twitch has looser rules about live streaming, other live streaming content. I'm not sure about YouTube. Is anyone like re-streaming the actual video? You know what I mean? That's the question. Like Cynical Historian and I know it's on Twitch, Cynical Historian and Emperor Tiger Star are doing something. So yeah, like they're I think gonna be they're like streaming it, but they're over on YouTube or on not on YouTube, on Twitch over there. Maybe I should have done that. A debate probably won't get struck. How do you guys know? What does that happen? Like, could you get strike? I mean, I got couple minutes till it starts. I have the YouTube stream up. You know what I mean? Like, I've got because they're streaming it on the CBS News website, but they also have some auto detection as well. So, like, here we go. Like, this is where they're streaming. Okay, they're actually doing it right now. First off, okay, it's starting in a minute and a half. I don't know. What do you guys think? Hey, look around. Will you guys look around on YouTube? Is anyone else doing like live commentary on the live video? Go look around and tell me who's doing it. The candidates just came out. They're out right now, and you know, pretending like you know how they bring like a notepad. By the way, I just want you guys to know, I'm gonna be live roasting both of these guys. Like that is my goal here. This is gonna be a live roast of the politicians. Yeah, who's doing it? I don't know. I also don't know if they have permission. Do they have these other people? Okay, so who else is doing it? Who else is doing this? Let's see. Daily Wire, like, I you think those people have, Destiny is watching live from CNN on his YouTube channel? Okay. I feel like Destiny's popular, like, is he allowed to do it? F it, should we just do it? I mean, they might bring it down, but, like, alright, let's just see. We'll try. I don't think they get strikes. You should think get a strike. People streamed the last one? What? Alright, let me pull it up. What if I did it, like, small mode?
Single vote, and we're going to take this country back.
And we are ready to continue to build the future together.
Does that help?
We're going to turn this whole country
Alright, a bunch of people are
red
doing
with
it.
President Donald J. Trump's leadership.
I mean, Destiny. I mean, what I mean by Destiny is like he's like pretty popular in far as like metrics go, like how many people watch. You know what I mean?
This is a CBS News special.
By the way,
live
if you
from
didn't know, I am the
CBS News
VP of fun.
headquarters in New York. America decides.
I also came
the
just in
vice
case it gets a
presidential
little bit
debate.
hot. I got the helmet, you guys.
Good evening. I'm
With
Nora
lots of
O'Donnell,
commentary.
and thank
Okay,
you for
on the left, we
joining
got
us for
this lady, and
tonight's
she's wearing a
CBS
blue
News vice
jacket. And then on the right,
presidential
there's
debate.
this
We
lady in
want to
the
welcome our
pink, and she's
viewers
got a
on
pink jacket.
CBS, on other
And,
networks
she's
here in the U.S. and around
eyebrow
the world.
game, and
we have a consequential night ahead, and
they're
our
talking.
focus is the issues
There
that
you go.
matter to you, the voter.
If I'm not
Let's introduce
reacting
the
enough,
candidates.
tell me to like
Minnesota's
react
Democratic
harder, I
Governor
guess.
Tim Walz and Ohio's Republican Senator
Hey, did
J.D.
anybody
Vance
else call him
tonight
Waltz
meeting
forever
for the first time.
instead of just walls?
I'm Margaret Brennan. In order to have a
Hey, they shook
thoughtful
hands
and
this time.
civil debate, these are the rules
They
that
barely
both
got Kamala
campaigns have
and,
agreed to. Questions will be directed at
Trump
one
to do it.
candidate who will have 2 minutes to respond. The other candidate will be allowed 2 minutes for rebuttal. Then each candidate will get another minute to make further points, with an additional
put up a
1
who's gonna
minute
win
each
poll?
at the discretion of the moderator. The primary role of the moderators is to facilitate the debate between the candidates, enforce the rules, and provide the candidates with the opportunity to fact-check claims made by each other.
CBS News reserves the right to mute the candidates' microphones
Oh,
to
they're gonna mute
maintain
them?
decorum. We have not shared the questions or topics with the campaigns.
You guys
The
think this could
stage
get
is
any
set.
like more
Governor,
dramatic though
Senator,
than
thank you for joining us. Let's get
the
started.
Trump debate?
Tonight, our country is facing several unfolding crises. The Middle East is on the brink of war. Americans are suffering from the
This has
catastrophic
become kind of
impact
interesting
of
in the fact that
Hurricane
like
Helene.
the
And
media
now a labor
was
strike
so
as 25,000 dock
obviously
workers
consumed with what's
from
going
Maine to
on
Texas are picketing.
with
We're going to begin tonight
Iran,
with
Lebanon,
the Middle
Israel
East.
today. Then all of a
Margaret.
sudden you like pop
Thank you,
this
Nora.
in. I'll be honest.
Earlier
I'm not gonna
today,
lie.
Iran
I
launched
kinda
its
forgot
largest
about this
attack yet on Israel,
until
but that attack failed, thanks
like
to
today.
joint U.S. and Israeli defensive action. President Biden has deployed more than 40,000 U.S. military personnel and assets to that region
Oh, is this the first
over
question?
the past year to try to prevent a regional war. Iran
By
is
the way,
weakened.
thank you
But
to
the
everyone
U.S. still
here.
considers it the
got a
largest
super
state
chat?
sponsor of terrorism in the world, and it has drastically reduced the time it would take to develop a nuclear weapon. It is down now to 1 or 2 weeks' time. Governor Walz, if you were the final voice in the Situation Room, would you support or oppose a preemptive
This will be
strike
interesting. Will they
by
actually
Israel
answer the question?
on Iran? You have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you. And thank you for those joining at home tonight. Let's keep in mind where this started. October 7th,
Tim's a
Hamas
former
terrorists
teacher, by the way.
massacred over 1,400 Israelis and took prisoners. Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental, and ending the
It's not important.
humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But the expansion of Israel and its proxies is an absolute fundamental necessity for the United States to have the steady leadership there.
I think
You
they're
saw
both
it
going to dance
experienced
around this
today,
question.
where along with our Israeli partners and our coalition, able to stop the incoming attack. But what's fundamental here is that steady leadership is going to matter. It's clear, and the world saw it on that debate
Neither will
stage a
answer
few
this.
weeks ago. A nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about crowd sizes is not what we need in this moment. But it's not just that. It's those that were closest to Donald Trump that understand how dangerous he is when the world is this dangerous. His chief of staff, John Kelly, said that he was the most flawed human being he'd ever met. And both of his secretaries of defense
Thanks for the super
and
chats, by the way.
his
I'll read
national
them
security
when we get
advisors
breaks.
said he should be nowhere near the White House. Now, the person closest to them, Donald Trump, said he's unfit for the highest office. That was Senator Vance. What we've seen out of Vice President Harris is we've seen steady leadership. We've seen a calmness that is able to draw on the coalitions to bring them together, understanding that our allies matter. When our allies see Donald Trump turn towards Vladimir Putin, turn towards North Korea, when we start to see that type of fickleness around holding the coalitions together, we will stay committed. And as the vice president said today we will protect our forces and
Talk
our
about
allies'
Israel.
forces,
That was
and
the
there will
question.
be consequences.
Governor, your time is up. Senator Vance, the same question.
That was a
Would you
non-answer.
support or oppose
comes another
a
non-answer,
preemptive strike
probably.
by Israel on Iran?
Yeah, exactly.
You have
Forgot
2
the
minutes.
question.
So, Margaret, I want to answer the question. First of all, thanks, Governor. Thanks to CBS for hosting the debate. And thanks, most importantly, to the American people who are watching this evening and caring enough about this country to pay attention to this vice presidential debate. I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give an introduction to myself a little bit because I recognize a lot of Americans don't know who either one of us are. I was raised in a working class
If
family.
they're
My
watching
mother
this, they know.
required food assistance for periods of her life. My grandmother required Social Security help to raise me. And she raised me in part
The
because
woe
my
is me
own mother
narrative.
struggled with addiction for a big chunk of my early life. I went to college on the GI Bill
I'm
after
roasting
I
both of
enlisted in
you
the Marine
people.
Corps and served in Iraq. And so I stand here asking to be your vice president with extraordinary gratitude for this country, for the American
gonna
dream
run out
that
of
made it
time.
possible for me to live my dreams. And most importantly, I know that a
Doing
lot of
this.
you are worried about the chaos in the world and the feeling that the American dream is unattainable. I want to try to convince you tonight over the next 90 minutes that if we get better leadership in the White House, if we get Donald Trump back in the White House, the American dream is going to be attainable once again. Now, to answer this particular question, we have to
the question.
remember that as much as Governor Walz just accused Donald Trump of being an agent of chaos, Donald Trump actually delivered stability in the world, and he did it by establishing effective deterrence.
Y'all
People
can
were
live fact
afraid
check
of
in the
stepping
chat.
out of line. Iran, which launched this attack, has received over $100 billion in unfrozen assets thanks to the Kamala Harris administration. What do they use that money for? They use it to buy weapons that they're now launching against our allies, and God forbid, potentially launching against
have
the
the
United
numbers on
States
that?
as well. Donald Trump recognized that for people to fear the United States, you needed peace through strength. They needed to recognize that if they got out of line, the United States global leadership would put stability and peace back in the world. Now, you asked about a preemptive strike, Margaret, and I want to answer the question. Look, it is up to Israel what they think they need to do to keep their country safe, and we should support our allies wherever they are when they're fighting the bad guys. I think that's the right approach to take with the Israel question.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Walz,
Didn't answer.
do you care to respond to any of the allegations?
Well, look, Donald Trump
No
was
answer.
in office. We'll sometimes hear a revisionist history, but when Donald Trump was in office, it was Donald Trump who we had a coalition of nations that had boxed Iran's nuclear program in, the inability to advance it. Donald Trump pulled that program and put nothing else in its place. So Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon than they were before because of Donald Trump's fickle leadership.
Ooh.
And when Iran shot down an American aircraft in international airspace, Donald Trump tweeted, because that's the standard diplomacy of Donald Trump.
I've not seen
And when
that.
Iranian missiles did fall near U.S. troops and they received traumatic brain injuries, Donald Trump wrote it off as headaches. Look, our allies understand that Donald Trump is fickle. He will go to whoever has the most flattery or where it makes sense to him. Steady leadership like you witnessed today, like you witnessed in April. Both Iranian
Thank
attacks
you,
were
Point Two
repelled.
Python.
Our coalition is strong, and we need the steady leadership that Kamala Harris is providing.
Senator Vance, the U.S. did have a diplomatic deal with Iran to
Neither have
temporarily
said
pause
anything
parts of its
policy-wise on
nuclear
this.
program, and President Trump did exit that deal. He recently said, just 5 days ago, the U.S. must now make
Just
a
say no, it's a
diplomatic
standard.
deal with Iran because the consequences are impossible. Did he make a mistake? You have 1 minute.
Well, first of all, Margaret, diplomacy is not a dirty word, but I think that's something that Governor Walz just said is quite extraordinary. You yourself just said Iran is as close to a nuclear weapon today as they have ever been. And Governor Walz, you blame Donald Trump. Who has been the vice president for the last 3.5 years? And the answer is your running mate, not mine. Donald Trump consistently made the world more secure. Now, we talk about what the sequence of events that led us to where we are right now, and you can't ignore October the 7th, which I appreciate Governor Walz bringing up. But when did Iran and Hamas and their proxies attack Israel? It was during the administration of Kamala Harris. So Governor Walz can criticize Donald Trump's tweets.
He's saying
but
it all
effective,
began on the
smart
7th of
diplomacy
October.
and peace through strength is how you
Peace
bring
before that?
stability back to a very broken world. Donald Trump has already done it once before. Ask yourself.
That's
at
why
home,
only historians should
when-
be president.
When was the last time? I'm 40 years old. When was the last time that an American president didn't have a major conflict break out? The only answer is during the 4 years that Donald Trump was president.
Gentlemen, we have a lot to get
Break
to.
out?
Nora?
Margaret, thank you. Let's turn now
But
to
not
Hurricane
end.
Helene.
But not
the
end.
storm could become one of the deadliest on record. More than 160 people are dead and hundreds more are missing. Scientists say climate change makes these hurricanes larger, stronger, and more deadly because of the historic rainfall. Senator Vance, according to CBS News polling, 7 in 10 Americans and more than 60% of Republicans under the age of 45 favor the U.S. taking steps to try and reduce climate change. Senator, what responsibility would the Trump administration
This is
have
gonna be
to
hard
try
because
and reduce the impact
Trump says
of
it's a
climate
complete
change?
hoax.
I'll give you 2 minutes.
Trump
Sure.
says
So
it's a
first of all,
complete hoax.
let's start
Does he
with the
buy it?
hurricane because it's an unbelievable, unspeakable human tragedy. I just saw today actually a photograph of 2 grandparents on a roof with a 6-year-old child, and it was the last photograph ever taken of them because the roof collapsed and those innocent people lost their lives. And I'm sure Governor Walz joins me in saying our hearts go out to those innocent people, our prayers go out to them, and we want as robust and aggressive as a federal response
Thoughts and
as we can
prayers?
get to save as many lives as possible, and then of course afterwards to help the people in those communities rebuild. I mean, these are communities that I love. Some of them I know very personally in Appalachia, all across the Southeast. They need their government to do their job, and I commit that when Donald Trump is president again, the government will put the citizens of this country first when they suffer from a disaster. Now, Nora, you asked about climate
How?
change. I think this is a
Specific.
very important issue. Look, a lot of people are justifiably worried about all these crazy weather patterns. I think it's important for us, first of all, to say Donald Trump and I support clean air, clean water. We want the environment to be cleaner and safer. But one of the things that I've noticed some of our Democratic friends talking a lot about is a concern about carbon emissions, this idea that carbon
Okay.
emissions drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing about weird science. Let's just
Okay.
say that's true. Well, if you believe that, what
Is it?
would you want to do? The answer is that you'd want to reshore as much American manufacturing as possible, and you'd want to produce as much energy as possible in the United States of America because we're the cleanest economy in the entire world. What have
Wrong.
Kamala Harris's policies actually led to? More energy production in China, more manufacturing overseas, more doing business in some of the dirtiest parts of the entire world. And when I say that, I mean the amount of
What's his new
carbon
video?
emissions they're doing per unit of economic output. So if we actually care about getting cleaner air and cleaner water, the best thing to do is to double down and invest in American workers and the American people. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris has done exactly the opposite.
Governor Walz, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, we got close to an agreement because all those things are happening. Look, first of all, it is a horrific tragedy with this hurricane. And my heart goes out to the folks that are down there in contact with the governors. I serve as
Sorry, guys. YouTube
co-chair of the
ads.
Council of
I put it
Governors.
down to
We
as
work
minimal
together
as
on these
I could.
emergency managements. Governors know no partisanship. They
As
work
minimal as they
together
would let
because
me.
all of the governors and the emergency responders are on the ground. Those happen on the front end. The federal government comes in, makes sure they're there to that we recover. But we're still in that phase where we need to make sure that they're staying there, staying focused. Now, look, coming back to the climate change issue, there's no doubt this thing roared onto the scene faster and stronger than anything we've seen. Senator
You know what
Vance
else?
has
The
said that there's a
coverage of the
climate problem
hurricane
in the
has been
past.
way
Donald
lower
Trump called
than
it a hoax,
usual.
and then joked that these things would make more beachfront property to be able to invest in. What we've seen out of the Harris administration now, the Biden-Harris administration, is we've seen this investment. We've seen massive investments, the biggest in global history that we've seen in the Inflation Reduction Act has created jobs all across the country.
Anything
2,000
with
in
climate change, the
Jeffersonville,
Democrats
Ohio,
will win on.
taking the EV technology
If you
that we
consider that
invented
important.
and making it here. 200,000 jobs across the country. The largest solar manufacturing plant in North America sits in Minnesota. But my farmers know climate change is real. They've seen 500-year droughts, 500-year floods back to back. But what they're doing is adapting, and this has allowed them to tell me, look, I harvest corn, I harvest soybean, and I harvest wind. We are producing more natural gas and more oil at any time than we ever have. We're also producing more clean energy. So the solution for us is to continue to move
insult
forward
the other
that
person.
climate change is real. Reducing our impact is absolutely critical, but this is not a false choice. You can do that at the same time you're creating the jobs that we're seeing all across the country. That's exactly what this administration has done. We are seeing us becoming
Sure,
an
like the
energy
video, guys.
superpower for the future, not just the current. And that's what
all
absolutely
your
makes
super
sense.
chats.
And then we start thinking about how do we mitigate these disasters?
Thank you. Senator, I want to give you an opportunity to respond there. The governor mentioned that President Trump has called climate change a hoax. Do you agree?
Well, look, what the president has said is that if the Democrats, in particular
he doesn't
Kamala
agree.
Harris and her leadership, if they really believe that climate change is serious, what they would be doing is more manufacturing and more energy production in the United States of America, and that's not what they're doing. So clearly, Kamala Harris herself
More
doesn't
clean
believe her
energy.
own rhetoric on this. If she did, she would actually agree with Donald Trump's energy policies. Now, something Governor Walz said I think is important to touch upon, because when we talk about clean
that's like a
energy,
false
I think that's
equivalence,
a
right?
slogan that often the Democrats will use here. And I'm talking, of course, about the Democratic leadership. And the real issue is that if you're spending hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars of American taxpayer money on solar panels that are made in China, number one, you're going to make the economy dirtier. We should be making more of those solar panels here in the United
are in
States of
Minnesota.
America.
We should be.
Some of them are, Tim, but a lot of them are being made
We don't
overseas
invest
in
in-
China,
Chinese
especially the
government
components
invests in
that
solar
go into
power.
those solar panels. So if you really want to make the environment
The
cleaner,
US does not.
you've got to invest in more energy production. We haven't built a nuclear facility, I think, one in the past 40 years.
Senator.
Natural gas,
Would he-
we got to invest
is he
more
saying
in
they
it.
would invest
Kamala Harris has done the opposite. That's
in more
raised
solar?
energy prices and also meant that we're doing
Senator,
worse by
your
the
time
climate.
is up.
I don't think
Governor,
Trump's a big
would you like to
solar. I
respond?
don't think he's a solar
Well,
guy,
look,
right?
We're
Trump's not a
producing
solar
more
guy.
natural gas than we ever have. There's no moratorium on that. We're producing more oil. But
Unless I'm
folks
wrong
know,
on
and
that.
like I said again, these are not liberal folks. These are not folks that are Green New Deal folks. These are farmers that have been drought one year, massive flooding the next year. They understand that it makes sense. Look,
Gonna hear a
our
lot of
number one
anecdotes, huh?
export cannot be topsoil from erosion from these massive storms. We saw it in Minnesota this summer. And thinking about how do we respond to that, we're thinking ahead on this. And what Kamala Harris
they
has been
said
able to
that,
do
Kentucky?
in Minnesota, we're starting to weatherproof some of these things. The infrastructure law that was passed allows us to think about mitigation in the future. How do we make sure that we're protecting by burying our power lines? How do we make sure that we're protecting lakefronts and things that we're seeing more and more of? But to call it a hoax and to take the oil company executives to Mar-a-Lago, say, give me money for my campaign and I'll let you do whatever you want. We can be smarter about that. And an all above energy policy is exactly what she's doing, creating those jobs right here.
Governor, your time is up. The overwhelming consensus among scientists is that the Earth's climate is warming at an unprecedented rate. Margaret?
Thank
We
you,
all know
Nora.
Trump's plan is
We're
to
going to turn
drill,
now
baby,
to
drill.
immigration. The
said
crisis
that
at
a
the
lot.
U.S.-Mexico border consistently
Oil and
ranks as
coal.
one of the top
Thank you,
issues
Blake.
for
you,
American
Blake.
voters. Senator Vance, your campaign is pledging to carry out the largest mass deportation plan in American history.
I want to know
and
how
to
they're
use
going to
the
do
U.S.
that.
military to do so. Could you be more specific about exactly how this
I'm
will
interested to hear
work?
this.
For example, would you deport parents who have entered the U.S. illegally and separate them from
He's
any
gonna
of their
deflect
children
this, I
who
think.
were born on U.S.
I think he's
soil?
going to deflect it.
You have 2 minutes.
So first of all, Margaret, before we talk about deportations, we have to stop the bleeding. We have a historic immigration
Sure.
crisis because Kamala Harris started and said that
Yeah.
she wanted to
He's gonna talk
undo
about the
all
previous
of Donald
immigration, but
Trump's
what
border
next?
policies. 94 executive orders suspending deportations, decriminalizing illegal aliens, massively
poisoning the
increasing
well
the
question for
asylum
sure.
fraud that exists in our system. That has opened the floodgates. And
Yeah, a
what it's
little bit.
meant is that a lot of fentanyl is coming into our country.
Yes, but what next?
I had a
What
mother who
next? What
struggled
next?
with opioid addiction and has gotten clean. I don't want people who are struggling with addiction to be deprived of their second chance
What
because
next?
Kamala Harris let in fentanyl
Answer
into
the
our
question.
communities at record levels. So you've got to stop the bleeding.
Yep.
You've got to
Okay, then what?
re-implement Donald Trump's border policies, build the wall, re-implement deportations. And that gets me to your point, Margaret, about what do we actually do?
Yes.
So we've got 20, 25 million illegal aliens who are here in the country. What do we do with them? I think the first thing that we do is we start with the criminal migrants. About 1 million of those people have committed some form of crime in addition to crossing the border illegally. I think you start with deportations on those folks. And then I think you make it harder for illegal aliens to undercut the wages of American workers.
So not to
a
port
lot
them
of
all.
people will go home if they can't work for less than minimum wage in our own country. And by the way, that'll be really good for our workers who just want to earn a fair wage for doing a good day's work. And the final point, Margaret, is you ask about family
Unrelated.
separation. Right now in this country, Margaret, we have 320,000 children that the Department of Homeland Security has effectively lost. Some of them have been sex trafficked. Some of them hopefully are at homes with their families. Some of them have been used as drug trafficking mules. The real family separation policy in this country is unfortunately Kamala Harris's
But what are
wide
you gonna
open
do?
southern border. And I'd ask my fellow Americans to remember when she
How?
came into
How?
office,
How to
she
deport
said
them?
she was
How?
going to do this.
There's millions.
Real leadership would be saying, you know what? I screwed up. We're going to go back to Donald Trump's border policies. I wish that she would do that. It would be good for all of us.
Governor,
He's going to bring up that
do you care to respond to any of those specific allegations,
gonna bring up,
including that the
that
vice president is, quote,
Trump told
letting
people to turn
in
down the
fentanyl and using
latest
kids
immigration
as
thing.
drug mules, among other things
Yeah,
regarding
well,
children?
The drug mule is not true, but I will say about this, about the fentanyl, because this is a crisis of this, the opioid crisis. And the good news on this is the last 12 months saw the largest decrease in opioid deaths in our nation's history, 30% decrease in Ohio, but there's still more work to do. But let's go back to this on immigration. Kamala Harris was the attorney general of the largest state, a border state in California. She's the only person in this race who prosecuted transnational gangs for human trafficking and drug interventions. But look, we all want to solve this. Most of us want to solve this, and that
How you
is the
gonna solve
United
it?
States Congress. That's the Border Patrol agents. That's the Chamber of Commerce. That's most Americans out here. That's why we had the fairest and the toughest bill on immigration
Yep.
that this nation's
He's gonna
seen.
say it got
It
shot
was
down.
crafted by a conservative senator from Oklahoma, James Langford. I know him. He's super conservative, but he's a man of principle, wants to get it done. Democrats and Republicans worked on this piece of legislation. The Border Patrol said, this is what we need in here. These are the experts. And the Chamber of Commerce and the Wall Street Journal said, pass this thing. Kamala Harris helped get there. 1,500 new border
very
agents.
politically motivated to
Detection
propose
for
that
drugs.
immigration
DOJ money to
deal,
speed
don't you
up
think?
these the adjudications on this, just
Make
what America
Democrats look
wants.
better.
But as soon as I was getting ready to pass and actually tackle this, Donald Trump said no, told them to vote against it because it gives him a campaign issue. It
Very
gives him
little
the-
fentanyl
what would
comes
Donald
across
Trump
illegal
talk about
border
if we
crossings.
actually did some of these things, and they need to be done by the
90%
legislature. You
comes from
can't
ports
just
of
do
entry.
this through the executive branch. So look, we have the options
I
to do
believe.
this. Donald Trump had 4 years. He had 4 years to do this, and he promised you, America, how easy it would be. I'll build you a big, beautiful wall, and Mexico will pay for it. Less than 2% of that wall got built, and Mexico didn't pay a dime. But here we are again, 9 years after he came down that escalator,
I think that's the
dehumanizing
stated reason.
people and telling them what he was going to do. As far as the deportation plan, at one point, Senator Vance said it was so unworkable to be laughable. So that's where we're at. Pass the bill, she'll sign it.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, the question was, will you separate parents from their children, even if their kids are
Republicans
U.S.
said they didn't vote
citizens?
for
In
it because
1
of the
minute.
other things
Margaret, my
attached to
point
it.
is that we already have massive child separations thanks to Kamala Harris's open border. And I didn't accuse Kamala Harris
But
of
haven't
inviting
cited what
drug
those were,
mules.
though,
I said that
that I
she
know.
enabled the Mexican drug cartels to operate freely in this country. And we know that they use children as drug mules, and it is a disgrace, and it has to stop. Look, I think what Tim said just
Congress
doesn't
blocked the
pass
funding.
the smell test. For 3 years, Kamala Harris went out bragging that
Well, all
she
was
was
in the
going to
bill,
undo Donald
citizen.
Trump's border policy. She did exactly that. We had a record number of illegal crossings. We had a record number of fentanyl coming into our country. And now that she's running for president, or a few months before, she says that somehow she got religion and cared a lot about a piece of legislation. The only thing that she did when
It's a
she
fair
became
thing
the vice
to
president, when she
accuse.
became the appointed border czar, was to undo
Harris and Biden know.
94 Donald Trump
Of
executive
doing this so
actions
late in the
that
political
opened the
cycle.
border. This problem is leading to massive problems in the United States of America. Parents who can't afford health care, schools that are overwhelmed.
They're eating the
It's got to
cats.
stop, and it will when Donald Trump is president again.
Senator, your time is up.
VPs have
Governor,
very
what
little power.
about our CBS News polling, which
Used to be
does show
called
that
the
a
position where
majority
you go to
of
kill
Americans,
your
more than
career.
50%, support mass deportations?
Look, we fix this issue with a bill that is necessary, but the issue on this is what happens when you don't want to solve it. You demonize it.
Will they
And we
push it
saw
if they
this,
win,
and,
though?
and Senator Vance, and it
Will they push the
surprises me
bill
on
again
this,
if they
talking
win?
about and saying, I will create stories to bring attention to this. That vilified a large number of people who were here legally in the community of Springfield. The Republican governor said, it's not true. Don't do it. There's consequences
Yeah,
for
that's
this.
almost
There's
how every
we
bill
could come
works.
together. Senator Langford did it.
No
We
bills
could
are on
come
their
together
own,
and solve this
which
if
needs
we
to stop,
didn't
by the
let
way.
Donald Trump continue to make it an issue. And the consequences in Springfield were the governor had to send state law enforcement to escort kindergartners to school. I believe Senator Vance wants to solve this, but by standing with Donald
Jesse,
Trump
he said that
and
it
not
was
working
blocked.
together to find a solution,
It was
it becomes
blocked.
a talking point. And when it
That's what
becomes
he
a
was saying.
talking point like this, we dehumanize and villainize other human beings.
And it was
Tim,
blocked.
Governor, Governor, your
it didn't
time is
pass
up.
the
Senator,
vote.
I'll give you 1 minute, but let me just ask you the question first. The governor has made the point, and I think as a sitting lawmaker, you know that Congress controls the purse strings and any funding. So you have said repeatedly that Donald Trump would, through executive
Is
action,
that comparable?
solve this. Do you disagree
No, there was a ton under
that
Obama.
Congress controls the purse strings and would need to support many of the changes that you would actually want to implement? You have 1 minute.
Look, Margaret, first of all, the gross majority of what we need to
Especially
do
with
at the
COVID.
southern border is just empowering law enforcement to do their job. I've been to the southern border more than our borders are. Kamala Harris has been, and it's actually heartbreaking because the Border Patrol agents, they just want to be empowered to do their job. Of course, additional resources would help, but most of this is about the president and the vice president empowering our law enforcement to say, if you try to come across the
Yeah,
border
you're right,
illegally,
Sean.
you've got to stay in Mexico, you've got to go back through proper channels. Now, Governor Walz brought up the community of Springfield, and he's very worried about the things that I've said in
Yes, but don't
Springfield.
eat
Look,
the
in
pets.
Springfield, Ohio, and in communities all across this country, you've got schools that are overwhelmed. You've got hospitals that are overwhelmed. You have got housing that is totally unaffordable because we brought in millions of illegal immigrants to compete with Americans for scarce homes. The people that I'm most worried about in Springfield, Ohio,
That's
are the
not the reason
American
homes are
citizens
up.
who have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's open border. It is a disgrace,
That's not
Tim.
why.
And I actually think, I agree with you. I
Not
think you want to solve
substantially.
this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, you have 1 minute to respond.
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
in border
It
border
is
area.
law enforcement that asked for the bill. They helped craft it. They're the ones that supported it. That's because they know we need to do this. Look, this issue of continuing to bring
Yeah, he
this up,
did, Blake.
of not dealing with it, of
not
blaming
in this one,
migrants
but-
for everything. On housing,
He
we
just
could
said
talk
that's
a
what they
little
were
bit about
told by
Wall Street
Trump's sources.
speculators buying up housing and making them less affordable. But it becomes a blame. Look, this bill also gives the money necessary to adjudicate. I agree. It should not take 7 years for an asylum claim to be done. This bill gets it done in 90 days. Then you start to make a difference in this and you start to adhere to what we know, American principles. I don't talk about my faith a lot, but Matthew 25:40 talks about "To the
Bible.
least amongst us you do unto me." I think that's true of most Americans.
Jesus
They
points.
simply want order to it. This bill does it. It's funded. It's supported by the people who do it. And it lets us keep our dignity about how we treat other people.
Thank you, Governor. And just
Thumb
to
up the video,
clarify
please.
for our
Thanks.
viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected
Well,
status.
Margaret,
Nora?
but
Thank you.
Senator, we
Is
have
Walz
so
gonna
much to get
say-
to.
Margaret,
You're
I
the
think it's
senator.
important
We're
because
gonna turn out of the
You're the
economy.
senator of
Thank you.
Ohio. Why
the
didn't you
rules were
deport
that
the
you guys weren't
economy-
going to
we're-
fact check. And since you're fact checking me, I
Is
think
he
it's
gonna say that?
important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That
Thank
is
you,
the
Senator.
facilitation of illegal immigration,
mute.
Margaret, by
Thank
our
you,
own
Senator, for
leadership.
describing the legal process.
those laws-
We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those
We have
laws
so
have been on
much-
the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The
We
CBP
wanna
One
have-
app has not been
Mute
on the
them,
books.
both of them. Mute them both. Dude, I would love to have the mute button.
Gentlemen,
I would end
the audience
exactly
can't hear
at
you
the
because your
time.
mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for
I
explaining
would
the legal
mute
process.
it so much. It'd be hilarious.
Nora?
Thank you,
I
Margaret.
would be the best.
The economy
moderator.
is a top concern for voters. Each of your campaigns has released an economic plan. So let's talk about the specifics.
They have.
Governor Walz, Vice President
Never
Harris
released
unveiled a
plans.
plan that includes billions in tax credits for manufacturing, housing, and a renewed child tax credit. The Wharton School says your proposals will increase
Veronica,
the
I
nation's
think I agree.
deficit by $1.2 trillion. How would you pay for that without ballooning the deficit? Governor, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. And Kamala Harris and I do believe in the middle class because that's where we come from. We both grew up in that. We understand. So those of you out there
Everyone
listening
thinks they're
tonight,
middle
you're hearing a
class,
lot of stuff
even when
back
they're
and
not.
forth, and it's good. It's healthy. That's what this is supposed to happen.
It's actually
you
a
should be listening
meaningless
how this is
term.
going to impact me.
But it-
The bold
but it's
forward
powerful to
plan that
use.
Kamala Harris put out there is one is talking about this housing issue. The one thing is there's 3 million new houses proposed under this plan with down payment assistance on the front end to get you in a house. A house is much more than just an asset to be traded somewhere. It's foundational to where you're at. And then making sure that the
Everyone
things you
says
buy
they're
every
middle
day,
class.
whether they be prescription drugs
So it
or
sounds
other
good.
things, that there's fairness in that. Look, the $35 insulin is a good thing, but it costs $5 to make insulin. They were charging $800 before this law went into effect. As far as the
Because nobody
housing
thinks
goes,
they're lower
I've seen
class.
it in Minnesota. 12% more houses in Minneapolis, prices went down on rent 4%. It's working. And then making sure tax cuts go to the middle class. $6,000 child tax credit, we have one in Minnesota, reduces childhood
Behind the
poverty
middle
by
class.
a third. We save money in the long run, and we do the right thing for families. And then getting businesses off the ground. The law as it stands right now is $5,000 tax credit for small business, increasing that to $50,000. Now, this is a philosophical difference between us. Donald Trump made a promise, and I'll give you this. He kept it. He took folks from Mar-a-Lago,
No
he said, you're rich
tax
as hell, I'm
and
going to give you a tax cut. He gave the tax cuts that predominantly went to the top class. What happened there was an $8 trillion increase in the national debt, the largest ever. Now he's proposing
If
a
only, huh?
20% consumption or sales tax on everything we bring in. Everyone agrees, including businesses, it would be destabilizing it. It would increase inflation and potentially lead to a recession. Look, this is simple for you. Where are we going? Kamala Harris has said to do the things she
$50,000
wants to do. We'll just ask the wealthiest to pay
New
their fair
business
share.
credit.
When you do that, our system works best. More people are participating in it, and folks have
People
the
will like
things that
that.
they need.
Senator, I want to give you a moment to respond on that. But similarly, the Wharton School has done an analysis of the Trump plan and says it would
People like the
increase the
idea of
nation's
that.
deficit by $5.8
Thanks, Empress
trillion.
Marmaduke.
My question is
And
the
thanks,
same
Alchemy's
for
Eyes.
you.
Thank
How do
you.
you pay for all that without ballooning the deficit? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, they got owned.
Well, first of all, you're going to hear a lot from Tim Walz this evening, and you just heard it in the answer. A lot of what Kamala Harris proposes to do, and some of it, I'll be honest with you, it even sounds pretty good. Here's what you won't hear, is that Kamala Harris has already done it. Because she's been the vice president for 3.5 years. She had the opportunity to enact all of these great policies. And what she's actually done instead is drive the cost of food higher by 25%, drive the cost of housing higher by about 60%.
I wanted to
Open
explain
the
how,
American
like,
southern border
what
and make
mechanisms.
middle class life unaffordable
I want
for a
both to
large number
explain
of
the
Americans. If
mechanisms of
Kamala
inflation.
Harris has such great
I want them
plans
both to.
for how to address middle class problems, then she ought to do them now. Not when asking for a promotion, but in the job the American people gave her 3.5 years ago. And the fact that she isn't tells you a lot about
Nobody
how
understands
much
the
you can
mechanisms
trust
of inflation.
her actual plans. Now, Donald Trump's economic plan is not just a plan, but it's also a record. A lot of those same economists attack Donald Trump's plans, and they have PhDs, but they don't have common sense and they don't have wisdom.
VPs
Because
are a
Donald
vote
Trump's
breaker in the
economic
Senate.
policies delivered the highest take-home pay in a generation in this country, 1.5% inflation, and to boot, peace and security all over the world. So when people say that Donald Trump's economic plan doesn't make sense, I say look at the record. He delivered rising take-home pay for American workers.
What's the plan?
Now, Tim admirably admits that they want to undo the Trump tax cuts. But if you
Okay.
look at what was so different about Donald Trump's tax cuts, even from previous Republican tax cut
Accusations
plans,
only went to
is
the
that a
wealthy.
lot of those resources went to giving more take-home pay pay to middle class and working class Americans. It was passed in 2017, and you saw an American economic boom unlike we've seen
Does
in a
anyone know
generation in this
actual
country.
tax
That is a
increases
record that
on
I'm
the
proud
middle
to run
class
on, and we're going to
in
get
the last
back
two
to that common
administrations?
sense wisdom so that you can afford to live the American dream again.
Not
I know a
inflation,
lot
but
of you are
tax
struggling.
increases.
I know a lot of you are worried about paying the bills. It's going to stop when Donald Trump brings back
I saw
common
very
sense to this
little
country.
change in the federal
Governor, do you want to
level.
respond to
over
that? What
to-
has Kamala
Yeah.
Harris
over
done for
both
the
of
middle
them.
Yeah,
class?
well, Kamala
Neither
Harris's
of them
day
did it.
one was Donald
Neither
Trump's
of them did
failure
it.
on COVID that led to the collapse of our economy. We were already before COVID in a manufacturing recession, but 10 million people out of work, largest percentage since the Great
Inflation
Depression.
is also a
9
form of
million
tax,
jobs
if you think
closed
about
on
it.
that. That was day one. Whether it was the Infrastructure
money.
Act or other things we moved. Now, you made a question about experts. Said this. I've made a note of this. Economists.
Yes,
They can't be trusted.
very little has
Science
ever changed.
can't be trusted. National security folks can't be trusted. Look, if you're going to be president, you don't have all the answers. Donald Trump believes he does. My pro tip of the day is this. If you need heart surgery, listen to the people at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, not Donald Trump. And the same thing goes with this. And I ask you
Stop
out
listening
there,
to politicians
teachers,
for advice.
nurses, truck drivers, whatever,
I have
how
not,
is it
Monty Python.
fair that you're paying your taxes every year and Donald Trump hasn't paid any federal tax in the last 15 years? And the last year as president. That's what's wrong with the
A
system.
lot of people
There's a
love
way
that he
around it, and he's bragged
has
about
been
that.
able to
We're
get
just
out of
asking for
taxes.
fairness in it, and that's all you want.
You have a minute.
Governor, you say trust the experts. But those same experts for 40 years said that if we shipped our manufacturing base off to China, we'd get cheaper goods. They lied about that. They said if we shipped our industrial base off
What?
to other countries, to Mexico and
true?
elsewhere, it would make the middle class stronger. They were wrong
How come
about
stuff
that.
from China is
They were
cheaper
wrong about
than
the
stuff
idea
built
that if
here?
we made America less self-reliant, less productive
wage
in our
labor.
own nation, that it would somehow make us better off. And they were wrong about it. And for the first time in a
No tariff.
generation, Donald Trump had the wisdom and the courage to say to that bipartisan
Chinese
consensus,
stuff is
we're
cheaper.
not doing it anymore. We're bringing American manufacturing back. We're
And
unleashing
Indian.
American energy.
And
We're going to
Southeast
make
Asia.
more of our own stuff. And this isn't just an
Are we talking
economic
about
issue.
NAFTA?
I mean, I've got 3 beautiful little kids at home, 7, 4, and 2, and I love them very much, and I hope they're in bed right now. But look, so many of the drugs, the pharmaceuticals that we put in the bodies of our children are manufactured by nations that hate us. This has to stop, and we're not going to stop it by listening to experts. We're going to stop it by listening to common sense wisdom, which is what Donald Trump governed on.
Senator, your
Look,
time is up. Governor
Why are
Walz,
they
can you address
making
that?
the,
I mean, voters say
medication?
they trust Donald Trump on the economy.
And not
more.
us.
Why?
Well, if you're listening tonight and you want billionaires to get tax cuts, you heard what the numbers were. Look, I'm a union guy on this. I'm not a guy who wanted to ship things overseas, but I understand that, look, we produce
Walz
soybeans
isn't a
and corn. We
debate
need
guy,
to have
though.
fair trading partners. That's something that we believe
He's
in.
not a debate
I think
guy.
the thing that most concerns me on this is Donald Trump was the guy who created the
Good
largest
idea.
trade deficit in American history with China. So the rhetoric is good. Much of what the senator said right there, I'm in agreement with him on this. I watched it happen too. I watched it to my communities, and we talked about that. But we had people undercutting the right to collectively bargain. We had right
the
to
middle of
work
the night
states
a lot
made
of
it more
places, though.
difficult. We had companies that were willing to ship it over, and we saw people profit. Folks that are venture capital in some cases, putting money into companies that were overseas. We're in agreement that we bring those home. The issue is Donald Trump is talking about it. Kamala Harris has a record, 250,000 more manufacturing jobs just out of the IRA.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
So appreciate that. So if you notice, what Governor Walz just did is he said, first of all, Donald Trump has to listen to the experts. And then when he acknowledged that the experts screwed up, he said, well, Donald Trump didn't do nearly as good of a job as the
No,
statistics
that's a
show
gross
that he
generalization.
did. So what Tim Walz is doing, and I honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here, because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation,
Only
which
because
of
of
course he
inflation,
did.
right?
And then you
Mostly 'cause of
simultaneously
inflation.
got to defend Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable
Inflation
for American
during the
citizens.
Biden era
I was raised by a woman who would sometimes go into
has really
medical
hurt
debt
wages.
so that she could put food on the table in our household. I know what it's like to
For
not
a
be able
variety
to
of reasons,
afford the
of course.
things that you need to afford. We can do so much better. To all of you watching, we can get back to an America that's affordable again. We just got to get back to common sense economic principles.
I hope we have a conversation on
Trump's the
healthcare
better.
then.
Senator,
not Trump.
Governor,
Please.
thank you. Margaret.
Vance is the better.
We have a lot to get to ahead,
Debating when it
gentlemen,
comes to-
on many topics. But right now, I want to talk about personal
To, like, debate
qualifications.
tactics.
The
He's the
vice
better.
president is often the last voice the president hears before making consequential decisions. We want to ask you
Is
about
he?
your leadership qualities.
Or her?
Governor Walz, you said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy? You have 2
Yeah,
minutes.
well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this,
he
look,
gonna dance around it?
I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come
Fair
on, and I'm
point.
proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17,
Irrelevant.
worked on
Extra
family
points.
farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher.
Woo, teacher.
My first year out, I got the opportunity
Don't
in
worry,
the
not all
summer of
teachers
89 to travel to China.
Doesn't make
35
you a
years
good
ago, to
politician.
be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. We would
Answer
take
the question.
basketball teams, we would take baseball teams, we would take dancers, and we would go back and
Although,
forth
does
to
anybody
China.
care really
the
about
issue
the
for
answer
that
to
was
this?
to try and learn. Now, look, my community knows who I am. They
Yeah.
saw where I was at.
He's saying it doesn't
They-
matter.
Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community.
I think if they're asking
I've
him
tried
this,
to
they
do the
need to
best
talk
I
about
can,
the cats
but
and
I've not
dogs
been
again.
perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Those same people elected me to Congress for 12 years. And in Congress, I was one of the most bipartisan people, working on things like farm bills that we got done, working on veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my
He's saying it
commitment
doesn't matter
has
that he
been
was
from
wrong
the
about it
beginning
or lied
to
about
make
it.
sure that I'm there for the people, to make sure that I get this right. I will say more than anything, many times I will talk
Nobody
a
changes
lot.
their
I
vote
will
from a
get
debate,
caught up in the rhetoric,
but they will go from
but
voting to
being
not
there,
voting.
the impact it made, the difference it made in my life. I learned a lot about China. I hear the critiques of this. I would make the case that Donald Trump should have come on one of those trips with us. I guarantee you he wouldn't be praising Xi Jinping about COVID.
Said he lied
And
about
I
being
guarantee
deployed.
you he wouldn't start a trade war that he ends up losing. So this is about trying to understand the world. It's about trying to do the best you can for your community. And then it's putting yourself out there and letting your folks understand what it is. My commitment, whether it be through teaching, which I was good at, or whether it was being a good soldier or was being a good member of Congress, those are the things that I think are the values that people
He
care
never
about.
saw combat, but he was in the National
Governor,
Guard.
just to follow up on that, the question was, can you
Didn't answer the
explain
question.
the
No, just-
discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said.
All right.
So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Thank you, Governor.
It's bad
Senator
when answering
Vance,
the question
in
makes you look bad, huh?
2016, you called your
That's why
running mate Donald Trump
People don't answer
unfit
questions.
for
Right?
the nation's highest office.
But again, does
and you
anybody
said
care
he
about
could be
that?
America's Hitler. I know you've been asked many times, and you've said you regret those comments and explained you then voted for Donald
Good
Trump
question.
in 2020. But the Washington Post reported new messages last
Thanks,
week in which
Empress Mermaid.
you
Thank
also
you.
disparaged Trump's economic record while he was president, writing to someone in 2020, quote, Trump thoroughly failed to deliver his economic populism.
Did
You're
he
now his
change
running
once he
mate,
became like
and
a?
you've shifted many of your
Silicon
policy
Valley
stances
guy?
to align with
Is that where his
his.
politics changed?
If you become vice president, why should
Or was it the
Americans
military?
trust that you will give Donald Trump the advice he needs to hear and not just the advice he wants to hear? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, Margaret, because I've
This
always
isn't
been
as bad
open,
as the
and sometimes,
presidential
of course,
debates,
I've disagreed
though.
with the president, but I've also been extremely open about the fact that I was wrong about Donald Trump. I was wrong, first of all, because I believed some of the media stories that turned out to be dishonest fabrications of his record. But most importantly, Donald Trump delivered for the American people. Rising wages, rising take-home pay, an economy that worked for
He's asking
normal
about what you
Americans, a
thought.
secure southern border, a lot of things, frankly, that I didn't think he'd be able to deliver on. And yeah, when you screw up, when you misspeak,
Okay.
when you get something wrong and you change your
Hey,
mind,
they
you ought to
both
be
said they
honest with the
screwed up.
American
They
people
screwed
about it. It's
up.
one of the reasons, Margaret, why I've done so many interviews is because I think it's important to actually explain to the American people
Guys glazing
where I come
himself.
down on the issues and what changed. Now, you pointed out the messages from 2020.
See, he's better
Margaret,
at
I've been
answering
extremely consistent.
in
That
the
I think there
debate
were a
way.
lot of things that we could have done better in the Trump administration, the first round, if Congress was doing its job. I strongly believe, and I've been a United States senator, that Congress is not just a high-class debating society. It's not just a forum for senators and congressmen to whine about problems. It's a forum to govern. So there were a lot of things on the border, on tariffs, for example, where I think that we could have done so much more if the Republican Congress and the Democrats in Congress had been a little bit better about how they govern the country. They were so obsessed with impeaching Donald Trump, they couldn't actually govern. And I want to talk about this tariff issue in particular, Margaret, because Tim just accused this of being a national sales tax. Look, the one thing, and you're probably surprised to hear me praising Joe Biden, but the one thing that Joe Biden did is he continued some of the Trump tariffs that protected American manufacturing jobs. And it's the one issue, the most pro-worker part of the Biden administration, it's the one issue where Kamala Harris has run away from Joe Biden's record. Think about this. If you're trying to employ slave laborers in China at $3 a day, you're going to do that and undercut the wages of American workers unless our country stands up for itself and says, you're not accessing our markets unless you're paying middle-class Americans a fair wage.
Senator, your time is up. Nora?
Thank you. Now to the issue of reproductive rights. Governor Walz, after Roe versus Wade was overturned, you signed a bill into law that made Minnesota one of the least restrictive states in the nation when it comes to abortion. Former President Trump said in the last debate that you believe abortion, quote, in the 9th month is absolutely fine. Yes or no? Is that what you support?
This comes up every time.
That's not what the bill says.
And
but
never.
Look, this issue is what's on everyone's mind. Donald Trump put this all into motion.
They're doing abortions after
how
birth.
great it was that he put the judges in and overturned Roe versus Wade. 52 years of personal autonomy. And then he tells us, oh, we send it to the states. It's a beautiful thing. Amanda Zaworski would disagree with you on it's a beautiful thing. A young bride in Texas waiting for their child at 18 weeks. She has a complication, a tear in the membrane. She needs to go in. The medical care at that point needs to be decided by the doctor. And that would have been an abortion. But in Texas, that would have put them in legal jeopardy. She went home, got sepsis, nearly dies, and now she may have difficulty having children. Or in Kentucky,
has there been more than one question
Hadley
about
Duvall,
China?
a 12-year-old child raped and impregnated by her stepfather. Those are horrific. Now, when God asked about that, Senator Vance said, 2 wrongs don't make a right. There is no right.
A lot of anecdotal stuff.
So in Minnesota, what we did was restore Roe versus Wade. We made sure that we put women in charge of their health care. But look, this is not where, if you don't know Amanda or a Hadley, you soon will. Their Project 2025 is going to have a registry of pregnancies. It's going to make it more difficult.
They're going to go
if
to
not
countries that
impossible,
don't tax
to get contraception and limit access, if not eliminate
offshore
access
accounts
to infertility treatments. For so many of you out there listening, me included, infertility treatments are why I have a child. That's nobody else's business, but those things are being proposed. And the catch-all on this is well, the states will decide what's right.
We already
for
know what
Texas
they
might
both
not
think
be
about
right
this,
for
right?
Washington. That's not how this works. This is basic human right. We have seen maternal mortality skyrocket in Texas, outpacing many other countries in the world. This is about
he's pro-choice.
healthcare. In Minnesota, we are ranked first in healthcare for a reason. We trust women. We trust doctors.
Senator, do you want to respond to the governor's claim? Will you create a federal pregnancy monitoring agency?
No, Nora, certainly we won't. And I want to talk about this issue because I know a lot of Americans care about it, and I know a lot of Americans don't agree with everything that I've ever said on this topic. And, you know, I grew up in a working class family in a neighborhood where I knew a lot of young women who had unplanned pregnancies and decided to terminate those pregnancies because they feel like they didn't have any other options.
I don't think there's a such thing as winning a debate.
One of
There's
them is
only
actually
such
very
thing as
dear to
losing
me.
a debate.
And I know she's watching tonight, and I love you. And she told me something a couple years ago that she felt like if she hadn't had that abortion, that it would have destroyed her life because she was in an abusive relationship. And I think that what I take from that as a Republican who proudly wants to protect
strawman each other's
innocent life
position
in
on
this country, who proudly wants to protect
abortion.
the vulnerable, is that my party, we've got to do so much better of a job at earning the American people's trust back on this issue where they frankly just don't trust us. And I think that's one of the things that Donald Trump and I are endeavoring to do. I want us as a Republican Party to be pro-family in the fullest sense of the word. I want us to support fertility treatments. I want us to make it easier for moms
Vance is more
to afford to
pro-life
have
than Trump.
babies. I want it to make it easier for young families to afford a home so they can afford a place to raise that family. And I think there's so much that we can do on the public policy front just to give women more options. Now, of course, Donald Trump has been very clear that on the abortion policy specifically, that we have a big country and it's diverse. And California has a different viewpoint on this than Georgia. Georgia has a different viewpoint from Arizona. And the proper way to handle this, as messy as democracy sometimes is to let voters make these decisions, let the individual states make their abortion policy. And I think that's what makes the most sense in a very big, a very diverse, and let's be honest, sometimes a very, very messy and divided country.
Governor, would you like to respond? And
None of
also
the
answer
candidates are
question about
anti-abortion.
restrictions?
Yeah, well, the question got asked, and Donald Trump made the accusation that wasn't true about Minnesota. Well, let me tell you about this idea that there's diverse states. There's a young woman named Amber Thurman. She happened to be in Georgia, a restrictive state. Because of that, she had to travel a long distance to North Carolina to try and get her care. Amber Thurman died in that
That's what's
journey
happening
back and forth.
with state by
The fact
state.
of the matter is,
Just
how can we as a
move to
nation
go
say
to
that
another
your
state to get
life
an abortion?
and your rights, as basic as the right to control your own body, is determined on geography? There's a very real chance
None of them
that Amber
policy-wise,
Thurman
Blake,
lived in Minnesota,
have said
she would be
anything
alive today.
like that, really.
That's why the restoration of Roe versus Wade. When you listen to Vice President Harris talk about this subject and you hear me talk about it, you hear us talking exactly the same. Donald Trump is trying to figure out how to get the political right of this. I agree with a lot of what Senator Vance said about what's happening. His running mate, though, does not, and that's the problem.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, let me ask you about that. He mentioned, it was I
How's
think,
the debate
referring to
going?
a national ban. In the
They're
past,
way
you
more
have
civil to each
supported
other than the
a
presidential
federal
candidates.
ban on abortion after 15 weeks. In fact, you said if someone can't support legislation like that, quote, you are making the United States the most barbaric pro-abortion regime anywhere in the entire world. My question is, why have
Hyperbole.
you changed your position?
Well, Nora, first of all, I never supported a national ban. I did when I was running for Senate in 2022 talk about setting some minimum national standard. For example, we have a partial birth abortion ban in place in this country at the federal level. I don't think anybody's trying to get rid of that, or at least I hope not, though I know that Democrats have taken a very radical pro-abortion stance. But Nora, one of the things that changed is in the state of Ohio,
It's
we
way
had a
easier to moderate
referendum
these
in
guys
2023, and the people of
presidential
Ohio voted
candidates.
overwhelmingly, by the way, against my position. And I think that what I learned from that, Nora, is that we've got to do a better job at winning back people's trust. So many young women
70% of you
would
say the
love to
VP
have
candidates
families.
are better than
So
the
many young women
presidential
also
candidates this
see an
year.
unplanned pregnancy as something that's going to destroy their livelihood, destroy their education, destroy their relationships.
I think
And we have
nationally that
got
would be
to
true as
earn
well.
people's trust back. And that's why Donald Trump and I are committed to pursuing pro-family policies, making childcare more accessible, making fertility treatments more accessible, because we've got to do a better job at that. And that's what real leadership is.
Only
Governor,
slightly
response.
sovereign
I'm going to
wind, in my
respond
opinion.
on the pro-abortion piece of that. No, we're not. We're pro-women. We're pro-freedom to make your own choice. We know what the implications are to not be that. Women having miscarriages,
Next question.
women not getting the care,
Next question.
physicians feeling like they may be prosecuted for providing that care. And as far as making sure that we're educating our children and giving them options, Minnesota's a state with one of the lowest teen pregnancy rates. We understand that too. We know that the options need to be available. And
What
we
other
make that
questions do
true.
you guys want
We
them to
also
answer?
make it, we're a top 3 state for the best place to raise children. But these two things to try and say that we're pro-children, but we don't like this, or you guys are pro-abortion, that's not the case
Meaning
at
people
all.
like these
We
candidates
are
more than the presidential
pro-freedoms for women to
candidates.
make their choices. And we're going, and Kamala Harris is making the case, to make options for children more affordable, a $6,000 child tax credit. But we're not going to base that on the backs of making
Abortion's
someone
too
like Amber
emotionally
Thurman
charged to
drive 600 miles to try and get health care.
easily
Senator?
sway
Let me
people
respond to that.
to a
First of all,
position.
Governor, I agree with you. Amber Thurman should still be alive, and there are a lot of people who should still be alive, and I certainly wish that she was. And maybe you're free to disagree with me on this
Tell you
and
what,
explain this to me, but as I
gun
read
control
the
hardly been
Minnesota
talked
law
about
that
this
you
election
signed
cycle.
into law, the statute that you signed into law, it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched
Waltz
late-term
failed a
abortion.
fact
That
check earlier.
is, I think,
That's
whether
not
you're
true.
pro-choice or
That's not how the law
pro-abortion,
is.
that is fundamentally barbaric. And that's why I use that word, Nora, is because some of what we've seen, do you want to force
They keep
Catholic
bringing that
hospitals
up,
to
even though
perform
it's been
abortions against their
debunked.
will? Because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and pro-family. But please.
Yes, Governor, please respond.
Look, this is one where there's always something there. This is a very simple proposition.
It's been a
These are
non-issue.
women's decisions to make about their healthcare decisions, and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and
Hello.
make a point, that's
Thanks
not
for
it
the
at
super
all.
What was that
chats,
wrong
guys.
about,
I'll put
Governor?
them up.
Please tell me,
It-
what was that wrong
That is
about?
not the way the law is written. Look, I've given
But
this,
how?
I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, getting engaged, that's been misread, and it was fact checked at the last debate. But the point on this is there's a continuation of these guys to try and tell women or to get involved.
Oh, he's
I
avoiding.
use this line on this: just mind your own business.
He's giving
on
you.
this. Things worked best when Roe versus Wade was in place. When we do a restoration of Roe, that works best.
This
That
is where he
doesn't
needs to
preclude
take
us
the bait.
from increasing funding for children.
Just
It doesn't
explain.
increase us from making sure that
Explain
once
that
that
it's
child's
wrong.
born, like in Minnesota, they get meals, they get early childhood education, they get health care. So the hiding behind we're going to do all these other
Waltz
things
isn't a debate
when you're
guy,
not
but
proposing them in
again,
your budget. Kamala Harris is
does it
proposing them.
matter?
She's proposing all those things to make life easier for
You want-
families.
I asked a specific
Being
question,
able to
Governor. You gave
debate-
me a slogan as a response.
It's not the case. It's not true.
An
That's not
important
what the law
attribute for you
says. So
guys?
they fact checked it with President Trump.
Gentlemen, there's a lot to discuss.
They
We have to
did.
move on, and
They
we're going to
did
be
fact
right
check
back
that.
with
That said
much
it's
more
nowhere.
of the CBS News vice
It
presidential
said that's
debate
not
in just a
anywhere in the
moment.
law that Trump heard. Oh, we get a. Oh, I wanted a commercial. Talk to you guys. Okay, let's mute this. All right. I'll come back when it's back on. Okay. Good. All right. Let me catch up. Let me make sure I get the super chats out. Thank you guys for doing that. What do you think so far? I think that this is an interesting, the current poll. I know I've been doing joke polls, but I hear this a lot where people are like, and sometimes I'm, well, I don't know, not necessarily on both sides, but like that people like these VP candidates better than the original candidates or like the presidential candidates. I hear that definitely a lot more for the Democrats. I honestly think, I don't know, I think maybe I'm wrong here, but more Democrats like Walz than Kamala Harris. And I mean, obviously Trump's super popular amongst his constituents. It wouldn't matter what, his like VP mate is, you know what I mean? I don't know if anyone was like, yes, I'm voting now for Trump because JD Vance is there. But there absolutely are people, I'm even seeing it from you guys in chat, that are saying, I'm voting for like this. I'm voting because Walz is, he's running. Right? Because there were sure a lot of people that were like, I'm just not going to vote, and then it turned into a kind of like, I think it was like with the last election. It feels like it was Trump versus not Trump, and it was going to be like that again this year. But I don't know if not Trump. I don't think they thought that not Trump would beat Trump. You know what I mean? And I think with Biden dropping out, that was basically confirmed. That they did not believe you could win a Trump versus not Trump, and just not being Trump is good enough to be elected. I think that's what they thought. So how much does a VP sway someone's vote? Very little, but I do think, I think this one may be a little bit more. However, there were a lot of people that did not like Palin. That's a good one. I've talked about this with the other YouTubers that I've been on, shows with, like Mr. Beat and stuff. And I know with Mr. Beat, he brings up Palin a lot as a VP pick being actually very consequential. I never thought it was as much maybe with Palin, but I don't know. But I do think, and maybe it's just recency bias, that, but here's the thing with Walz, but I don't think a lot of people knew who Walz was. Nobody had ever talked about Walz before. I mean, there was the people, unless you were from Minnesota, I mean, to be honest, how many of you, if you're not a politic, always online guy, always online person, terminally online people really knew about him that much? And a big reason for that is because he never ran for president before. Like Kamala, I know Kamala, because Kamala has run for president before. But it does seem like people really liked Walz when they heard about what was going on, or like what would have been going on with in Minnesota, because there were a lot of things that were very, it seems like very popular that he did do there, and I think people have gone on to that. So yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I can't name a single Australian prime minister. I've never met like a terminally online political person that is a happy person. All right, I think we're back. Anyways, thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for the super
Welcome
chat.
back to
Like
the
the
CBS
video.
News vice presidential
I'm thinking
debate.
of doing an
We want
election
to turn
night.
now to America's
Stream too.
gun violence epidemic.
Stream a bunch
the
of,
leading
you know,
cause of
stream
death
all
for
night
children
on
and
election
teens
night.
in America
Place
is
so y'all
by
can hang out.
firearms. Senator
Not be too
Vance,
vitriolic.
you oppose most gun legislation that Democrats claim would curb gun violence.
By the way,
you
Jimmy
oppose
Carter,
red flag gun
100
laws
years old.
and
Oh,
legislation to ban certain semi-automatic rifles,
guns.
including AR-15s. So let me ask you, earlier this
Nothing
year,
will
for
happen
the
with
first
guns.
time, the parents of a school shooter were convicted of
Nothing ever happens with
involuntary
guns.
manslaughter and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Do you think holding parents responsible could curb mass shootings?
That's a good
I'll give you
question.
2 minutes.
Yeah, well, Nora, on that particular case, I don't know the full details, but I certainly trust local law enforcement and local authorities to make those decisions. I think in some cases the answer is going to be yes, and in some cases the answer is going to be no. And the details really matter here, of course. For example, if a kid steals a gun,
Okay.
that's going to be different than if a parent hands over a gun knowing that their kid is potentially dangerous. But look, I want to just sort of speak as a father of 3 beautiful little kids, and our oldest is now in 2nd grade. And like a lot of parents, we send our kids to school with such hope and such joy and such pride at their little faces on the first day of school. And we know, unfortunately, that a lot of kids are going to experience this terrible epidemic of gun violence. And of course,
Answer
our
this
hearts
poll
go out to
question.
the families that are
Mitch,
affected
just
by
see what
this
you guys
terrible stuff. And we do have to do better. And I think that Governor Walz and I actually probably agree that we need to do better on this. The question is just, how do we actually do it?
Okay, how?
Now, here's something that really bothers me and
How?
worries me about this epidemic of violence. The gross majority, close to
They're gonna
90%
have
in some
different
of the
ideas
statistics
about the
I've
source
seen of the gun
of gun
violence in this country is committed with illegally obtained firearms. And while we're on that topic, we
Okay.
know that thanks to Kamala Harris's open border, we've seen a massive influx in the number of illegal guns run by the Mexican drug cartels. So that number, the amount of illegal guns in our country is higher
The
today
last place
than it was 3.5 years
that
ago.
Americans need to get
But
guns
what do we
from is
do
from
about
another
the
country.
schools? What do we do to protect our kids? And I think the answer is, and I say this not loving the answer, because I don't want my kids to go to school in a school that feels unsafe or where there are visible signs of security. But I unfortunately think that we have to increase security in our schools. We have to make the doors
Yeah, a lot of
lock
under the
better. We have to
table
make the doors stronger. We've got to
firearm
make the
sales.
windows stronger. And of course, we've got to increase school resource officers, because the idea that we can magically wave a wand and take guns out of the hands of bad guys, it just doesn't fit with recent experience. So we've got to make our schools safer. And I think we've got to have some common sense bipartisan solutions for how to do that.
Governor, you have 2 minutes.
Well, I think all the parents watching tonight, this is just your biggest nightmare. Look, I got a 17-year-old, and he witnessed a shooting at a community
Interesting
center
comparison.
playing volleyball. Those things
Awful.
don't leave you. As a member of Congress, I sat
Is it
in my
intentional kill with
office
the car? Or
surrounded by dozens
accident?
of the Sandy Hook parents, and they were looking at my 7-year-old picture on the wall. Their 7-year-old were dead, and they were asking us to do something. And look, I'm a hunter. I own firearms. The vice president is. We understand that the Second Amendment is there, but our first responsibility is to our kids to figure this out. In Minnesota, we've enacted enhanced red flag laws, enhanced background checks, and we can start to get data. But here's the
Can't
problem.
force teachers to
If
be
we
armed,
really want
nor
to
should
solve
you.
this, we've got folks that won't allow research to be even done on gun violence.
IMO.
And this idea that we should just live with it. And I here's what I do think, that this is a good start to the conversation. I
Intentionally?
100% believe that Senator
It's
Vance
probably the same as a gun.
hates it when these kids, it's abhorrent and it breaks your heart. I agree with that. But that's not far enough when we know there are things that work. I've spent time in Finland and seen some
I know
Finnish
teachers
schools.
that carry.
They don't have this happen.
My dad did every
Even though
day.
they have a high gun ownership rate in the country. There are reasonable things that we can do to make a difference. It's not infringing on your Second Amendment. And the idea to have some of these weapons out there, it just doesn't make any sense.
Should certain
Kamala
weapons be
Harris, as an
banned?
attorney general, worked on this issue. She knows that it's there. No one's trying to scaremonger and say we're taking your guns, but I ask all of you out there, do you want your schools hardened to look like a fort? Is that what we have to go? When we know there's countries around the world that their children aren't practicing these types of drills. They're being kids. We owe it to them to get a fix. These are things that shouldn't be that difficult. You can still keep your firearms and we can make a difference. We have to. If you're listening tonight, this breaks your heart.
Senator.
Tim, first of all, I didn't know that your 17-year-old witnessed a shooting. I'm sorry about that, and I
I
hope that he's
appreciate
doing
you saying
okay.
so.
Christ
Aw.
have mercy. It is awful, and I appreciate what Tim said actually about Finland.
You would never
because I
hear
do think
the
it
other candidate
illustrates some
say
of the frankly weird differences between our own country's gun violence problem and Finland. Is okay. First of all, we have way higher rates of mental health abuse or mental health substance abuse. We have way higher rates of depression, way higher rates of anxiety. We unfortunately have a mental health crisis in this country that I really do think that we need to get
There's
to
a
the root
fundamental
causes of, because I don't
disagreement.
think it's
Yeah,
the
here,
whole
upward.
reason why we have such a bad gun violence
Some people
problem,
say
but I do think it's a big piece
more
of it.
guns.
Another driver of the gun violence epidemic, especially
More
that
good
affecting our
guys with
kids,
guns
it doesn't earn as
is the
many
answer.
headlines, but is the terrible gun violence
Them
problem
saying
in a lot of our big cities.
less
And this is
destructive
why we
guns
have to empower law enforcement
and
to
more
arrest the
gun
bad
control.
guys, put them away, and take gun offenders off the
Certain
streets.
people shouldn't be
I think
able to
there's
have
a whole
guns,
host of things that we can do here, but I do think at our schools we've got to talk about more
especially the
security.
mentally
Senator,
unwell.
thank you. Governor, you previously
and,
opposed an
criminals.
assault weapons ban, but it only
Former
later
criminals, I
in your
guess.
political career did you change your position. Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was the NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety. I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football practice. That's not where we live today. And several things I want to
More
mention
Democrats
on this
like
is
guns, I think, than
talking
people
about
think.
cities and where it's at. The number one where the most firearm deaths happen in Minnesota are rural suicides. And we have an epidemic of children getting guns and shooting themselves. And so we have, and we should look at all of the issues.
Don't
Making
laugh at
sure
anyone.
folks have health care and all that, but I want to be very careful. This idea of stigmatizing mental health, just because you have a mental health issue doesn't mean you're violent. And I think what we end up doing is
True.
we start looking for a scapegoat. Sometimes
Andy,
it just is the guns.
Honest
It's
question.
just the guns, and there are things that you can do about it. But I do think
Is there
that
anything in
this is
religious
one,
texts
and I think this is a healthy
about-
conversation. I think there's a capacity to find
Uh,
solutions on this that work, protect Second
or like
Amendment,
God says
protect
people
our
have
children.
weapons?
That's our priority.
That's an honest
Gentlemen,
question.
thank you. Margaret.
Thank you, Nora. Let's turn now to
Like
the
if you say it's
top
God-given right,
contributor
is that
to inflation, the high
from, like,
cost of
religious
housing
texts?
and rent. There's a shortage of more than 4 million homes in the United States, and that contributes to the high housing prices. Governor Walz,
I've shot guns a
the
lot.
Harris campaign promises
I
a
like arranges and stuff.
$25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and a $10,000 tax credit. They also promise to build 3 million new homes. Where are you building these homes, and won't handing out that kind of money just drive up prices higher?
No, it's not
Defense.
handing out. We have, first, let me say this issue of housing, and I think those of you listening on this, the problem we've
I've
had
lived all
is
over this
that
country.
we've got a lot of folks that see housing as another commodity. It can be bought up, it can be shifted, it can be moved around. Those are not folks living in those houses. Those of you listening tonight, that house is a big deal. I bought and owned one house in my life. My mom still lives in the house where I was. And when I think of a house,
New
I'm
poll coming
thinking
in.
of Christmas services after midnight mass where you go with your family. We need to make it more affordable. And one of the things, as I said, this program that the vice president is pushing forward and bringing a new way of approaching this is something we're doing in Minnesota from that lead. We in the state invested in making sure our housing was the biggest investment that we'd ever made in housing. It starts to make it easier. We cut some of the red tape. Local folks, look, we can't do it at the federal level, but local folks make it easier to build those homes. And then that down payment assistance. I can tell all of you out there, one of the certainly for me, using the GI Bill was one thing, but a
Second
veteran's
Amendment
home
does
loan,
talk
the
about
big thing about a
well-regulated
veteran's home
militias.
loan is you don't have to pay the down payment. Those are things that make it there. Now, look, you're going to pay it back and you're going to pay your mortgage. Those are things that we know in the long run, the appreciated value, the generational wealth that's
Commodity
created from it.
meaning
And I will give Minneapolis an
item
example.
designed to be bought and
Minneapolis is
sold.
the one city where we've seen the lowest inflation rates. We've seen a 12% increase in stock because we put some of these
Especially
things
with a
in.
profit
And
motive.
we're implementing a state program to make sure we give some of that down payment assistance. We get it back from people because here's what we know. People with stable housing end up with stable jobs. People with stable housing have their kids able to get to school. All of those things in the long run end up saving our money. And that's the thing that I think we should be able to find some common
What
ground
did it mean
in,
back
but
then,
we
and how do we
can't
know what it meant
blame,
back then?
immigrants for the only reason. That's not the case that's happening in many cities. The fact of the matter is that we don't have enough naturally affordable housing, but we can make sure that the government's there to help kickstart it, create that base.
Governor, your time is up. Senator Vance, as far as your campaign's position, the promise is to seize federal lands to build homes, remove regulation, provide tax breaks, and
There's
cut
no
back
such thing
on
as a permanent
immigration, which
military
you say
in the
pushes up
days the
prices.
Constitution was written
Where are you going to build
that way.
all the new homes you're promising, and what part of any of this
Military
plan will
largely
provide
disbanded.
immediate relief? You have 2 minutes.
States
First
usually
of
had
all,
militias.
Tim just said something
For a
that I
lot
agree
of,
with. We don't want to blame immigrants for
history.
higher housing prices, but we do want to blame Kamala Harris
Sometimes
for
militias
letting
were
in
larger than the
millions of
National
illegal
Army.
aliens into this
Pass the
country,
bill.
which does drive up costs, Tim. 25 million illegal aliens competing with Americans for scarce homes is one of the most significant drivers of home prices in the country. It's why we have massive increases in home prices that have happened right alongside massive increases in illegal alien
Housing prices have
alien
gone up regardless
populations
of immigration
under
stats
Kamala
for
Harris's leadership. Now, Tim just mentioned a bunch of
all the
ideas.
time.
Now, some of those ideas I actually think are halfway decent, and some of them I disagree with. But the most important thing here is
This is
Kamala
a good
Harris
argument
is
to make
not
for people
running
that
as a
already believe
newcomer to
immigration is the
politics.
cause of our
She is
economic
the
problem.
sitting vice president. If she wants to enact all of these
it won't
policies
work
to
with
make housing more affordable, I invite her to
immigration
use the office that the American people already gave her,
being used as
not sit
the
around and campaign and do
explanation for
nothing
all
while
problems.
Americans find the American dream of homeownership completely unaffordable. Now, you asked, Margaret, what would immediately change the
Is
equation for
homeownership being
American
part of
citizens?
capitalism
If
the
you
issue?
lower energy prices, as Donald Trump says,
I'd love
drill
to hear them
baby
answer that.
drill, one of the biggest drivers of housing costs aside from illegal immigration is, think about it. If a truck driver's paying 40% more for diesel, then the lumber he's delivering to the job site to build the house is also going to become a lot more expensive. If we open up American energy, you will get immediate pricing relief for American citizens, not, by the way, just in housing, but in a whole host of other economic goods too.
Senator Vance, you still
It's been
have
10 years
23
since
seconds
homes
there.
were
Do you want to answer?
Can I have it?
affordable to
Governor, we will get to you in a moment. But
average-based,
Senator,
income-
where are you going to seize the
income,
federal lands? Can you clarify?
earners.
Well, what Donald Trump has said is we have a lot of
No,
federal
because I
lands that
bought
aren't being
2
used for
properties
anything.
in
They're
the
not
last
being
10
used
years.
for national park. They're not being used, and they could be places where we build a lot of housing. And I do think that we should be opening up building in this country. We have a lot of land that could be used. We have a lot of Americans that need homes. We should be kicking out illegal immigrants who are competing for those homes, and we should be building more homes for the American citizens who deserve
Would he
to be
cap
here.
rents?
Senator, your time is up. Governor, I do
What
want to
about
let you
mortgage rates?
respond to the
What about mortgage
allegation that
rates?
the vice president is letting in.
Well, of course, that's not
migrants,
true. And again,
and that
you
it's
have the
affecting
facts. I
housing
guess we
prices.
agreed not to fact check. I'll check it. That look, crossings are down compared to when Donald Trump left office. But it's again blaming and not trying to find the solution. I was
COVID
going
was a
to
huge
ask
part
on
of
this
that, too.
question: are we going to drill and build houses in the same federal land? And I think when people hear federal lands, these are really important pieces
Trump's
of land.
not the
Now,
president.
Minnesota doesn't have a lot of federal lands. I know in the western part of the countries we do. There's not a lot of federal lands in and around Minneapolis, for example. So the issue is I don't
Home
understand
prices
the
were a
federal
little
lands
cheaper
issue
then,
unless we
but
see this. And I
still
worry
very
about this
difficult
as someone who cares deeply
for
about
an
our
average
national
person.
parks and our federal lands. Look, Minnesota, we
Thank you
protect
for the
these
super
things.
chat.
We've got about 20% of the world's fresh water. These lands protect. They're there for a reason. They belong to all of us. But again, this is when you view housing and you view these things as commodities. Like there's a chance to make money here. Let's take this federal land and let's sell it to people for that. I think there's better ways to do this. We've seen it in Minnesota. We're able to refurbish some of these houses. We're able to make some investments. That gets people in. And I'm still on the fact on this. Economists, you Senator Vance, you said you don't like the economists. Which economists are saying that it is immigrants that's adding to the cost?
Governor,
Where's the
your
study?
time
Sorry.
is up. But Senator, on
HOAs
that
are an
point,
issue,
I'd
but
like
not the
for you
highest
to
issue.
clarify, there are many contributing factors to high housing
This is somebody
costs.
that's
What
lived
evidence do
and
you
currently
have
lives in an
that
HOA
migrants
and has done it twice.
are part of this problem?
Well, there's a Federal Reserve study that we're happy to
I wouldn't
share
put it
after
at
the
the
debate.
top.
We'll put it up on social media, actually, that really drills down on the connection between increased levels of migration, especially illegal immigration, and higher housing prices. Now, of course, Margaret, that's not the entire driver of higher housing prices. It's also the regulatory regime of Kamala Harris. Look, we are a country of builders. We're a country of doers.
Which
We're a
regulation
country of
are you
explorers.
talking about?
But we increasingly have a federal administration that makes it harder to develop our resources, makes it harder to build things, and wants to throw
HOAs
people
are also
in jail
capitalistic too.
for
So
not doing everything exactly as Kamala Harris says they have to do. And what that means is that you have a lot of people who would
Anti-capitalist,
love
I
to
guess you
build
would say.
homes who
You're okay
aren't
with that?
able to build
get rid
homes.
of
I
HOAs.
actually agree with Tim Waltz. We should get out of this idea of housing as a commodity. But the thing that has most turned housing into a commodity is giving it away
HOA
to
where I used to live
millions
went
upon
from
millions of
$100 a month
people
to
who
like
have no
$250.
legal right to be here.
What are the federal regulations? I deal with this as a governor.
Vienna does
You can very
extensive
quickly reply.
I'm sorry.
social.
I get this as a governor,
government
and
housing.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. That in some
Worked really
cases,
well for
many
them,
of those are
actually, from what I
local,
understand.
many of them are state. I don't know which ones are federal, but I think whenever we talk regulations, people think they can get rid of them. I think you want to be able to get out of your house in a fire.
What type of
I think
regulation?
you want to make sure that it's fireproof
Price
and those
capping?
types of things. So which are the regulations? Because the vice president's not responsible for those. Congress writes those.
Governor, thank you. Gentlemen,
It's a good rebuttal.
we have a lot to get
'Cause
to.
that's
You're
what they keep
passionate
talking
about
about
the
is
housing crisis. I
Vice
can
President, why
tell.
hasn't she done
But Nora?
anything?
Thank you. One of the top
Vice
problems
President does not
facing
write laws.
Americans is the high cost of health care. Senator Vance, at
Neither,
the last
neither of these people will
presidential
have
debate,
power.
former President Trump was asked about replacing the Affordable Care Act. In response, he said, "I have concepts of a plan." Since then, Senator, you've talked about changing how chronically ill Americans get health insurance. Can you explain how that would work? And can you guarantee that Americans with pre-existing conditions won't pay
Big
more?
problem is the
I'll give you
American
2 minutes.
government does not
of
force
course, We're
negotiation
going to cover
for
Americans with pre-existing
drug
conditions.
prices.
In
Other
fact, a lot
countries
of my
do.
family members have
Look at the price
gotten
of
health care.
Ozempic in our country versus
I believe,
others.
you know, members of my family actually got private health insurance
Like
at least for the
100%,
first time, switched off of Medicaid onto
1,000%
private
more.
insurance for the first time under Donald Trump's leadership. And I think that
Because
you
you
know, a
have to
lot of people have
negotiate
criticized this concept
be able
of
to
a
sell
plan
your
remark. I think
product.
it's very simple common sense. I think as Tim Walz knows from 12 years in Congress, you're not going to propose a 900-page bill standing on a debate stage. It would bore everybody to tears, and it wouldn't actually mean anything because part of this is the give and take of bipartisan negotiation. Now, when Donald Trump was actually president, and again, he has a record to be proud of, prescription drugs fell in 2018 for the first time in a very long time. Under Kamala Harris's
Is that
leadership,
because of
prescription drugs
presidential
are up
policy
about 7%. Under Donald Trump's entire 4 years, they were up about
or the overall
1.5%.
economy?
He introduced pricing transparency. Think about healthcare. You go
Okay,
into
there
a
you go.
hospital, you try to buy something, and nobody knows what it actually costs. That price transparency will actually give American consumers a little bit more choice and will also drive down costs. And we talked about, you know, the reinsurance regulations is what I was talking about. Look, Donald Trump has said that if we allow states to experiment a little bit on how to cover both the chronically ill but the non-chronically ill, it's not just a plan. He actually implemented some of these regulations when he was president of the United States. And I think you can make a really good argument that it salvaged Obamacare, which was doing disastrously until Donald Trump came along. And I think this is an important point about President Trump. Of course, you don't have to agree with everything that President Trump has ever said or ever done. But when Obamacare was crushing under the weight of its own regulatory burden and healthcare costs, Donald Trump could have destroyed the program. Instead, he worked in a bipartisan way to ensure that Americans had access to affordable care. It's not perfect, of course, and there's so much more that we can do. But I
Obamacare's
think
not
that
going
Donald
anywhere.
Trump has
Too
earned
many
the
people on
right
it.
to put in place
Too
some
many
better
people need it.
healthcare policies. He's earned it because he did it successfully the first time.
Governor?
All right,
You
here's
pull
where
up-
being an old guy gives you some history. I was there at the creation of the ACA. And the reason it was so important is I come from a major healthcare state, home of the Mayo Clinic, home to Medical Alley, 3M, Medtronic, all of those. We understand healthcare. It's why we're ranked first on affordability and accessibility and quality of healthcare. And so what I know is under Kamala Harris, More people are covered than they have before. And those of you listening, this is critical to you. Now, Donald Trump all of a sudden wants to go back and remember this. He
Yeah, it's a
ran
little bit
on the first thing he
less
was going to do
dramatic.
on day one was
I'm
to
sure.
repeal Obamacare. On day one, he tried to sign an executive order to repeal the ACA. He signed on to a lawsuit to repeal the ACA, but lost at the Supreme Court. And he would have repealed the ACA.
There's
had it not
never
for the
been a
courage of John
replacement.
McCain to save that bill.
Republicans have never offered a
Now, fast
replacement for
forward, what that
Obamacare.
means to you is you lose your
I'm not sure if they
pre-existing
want one, to
conditions.
be honest.
If you're sitting at home and you got asthma, too bad. If you're a
Want to
woman,
completely
probably
keep it
not.
privatized that
Broke your
way.
foot during football, might kick you out. Your kids get kicked out when they're 26. Kamala Harris negotiated
Obamacare
drug
is not
prices for the first time with Medicare.
state health
We have
care at all.
10 drugs that will come online, the most
People
common
don't know
ones
what it
that will be
is.
there. But look, this issue, and when Donald Trump said, I've got a concept of a plan, it cracked me up as a fourth grade teacher because my kids would have never given me that. But what Senator Vance just explained might be worse than a concept, because what he explained is pre-Obamacare. And I'll make this as
A
simple as
year?
possible because I have done this for a long time. What they're saying is,
Might be
if you're
circumstantial to
healthy,
certain
why
things
should
in
you be
Germany,
paying
right?
more? So what they're going to do
I
is
know a
let
lot of other
insurance
countries don't have
companies
that issue.
pick who they insure, because guess what happens? You pay your premium, it's not much. They're figure they're not going to have to pay out to you. But those of you a little older, gray, got cancer, you're going to get kicked out of it. That's why the system
Oh.
didn't work. Kamala Harris will protect and enhance the ACA.
Repeal
Governor,
or
thank you.
replace?
Senator, you have not yet explained how you would protect people with pre-existing conditions or laid out that plan.
Chatter.
Well, look, we currently have laws and regulations in place right now that protect people with pre-existing conditions. We want to keep those regulations in place,
There's
but we
plenty of
also
wait
want to
time
make the health insurance marketplace
in
function
America.
a little bit better. Now, what Governor Walz just said is actually not true. A lot of what happened and the reason that
A lot of it is
Obamacare was
waiting for the
crushing
red
under
tape
its
of
own weight
insurance.
is that a lot of young and healthy people were leaving the exchanges. Donald Trump actually helped address that problem, and he did so in a way that preserved people's access to coverage who had pre-existing conditions. But again, something
it's
that
the
these
only
guys do is they make a
Definitely a
lot of
good thing.
claims about if Donald Trump becomes
What are the bad
president,
parts,
all of
Sean?
these terrible consequences are going to ensue. But in reality, Donald Trump was president. Inflation was low. Take-home pay was higher. And he
Tommy!
saved the very program from a Democratic administration that was collapsing and would have collapsed absent his leadership. He did his job, which is govern
It would have
in a
collapsed. They wanted to
bipartisan way
repeal it,
and get
right?
results, not just complain about problems, but actually solve them.
Governor, did enrollment under the Affordable Care Act go up under the Trump administration?
It's higher now that we've seen it go up. Look, people are using it. The system works. And the question about this of young
How many
people, whatever,
people
that's
are
the
on-
individual mandate piece of this. And
Are
Republicans
using the
fought
healthcare market
tooth and
from
nail,
the
saying, well,
ACA.
Americans should be free to do this. Well, then
So
what
you
happens
think the
is
individual mandate's a good idea?
you shrink. I think the idea of making sure the risk pool is broad enough to cover everyone, that's the only way insurance works. When it doesn't, it collapses. You are asking pre-ACA.
Look at what insurance companies are doing in the hurricane right now.
People know that they need to be on health care. People expect it to be there. And when we are able to make it, and we are making it this way, when we incentivize people to be in the market, when we help people
The
who
debate's
might
been
not be
very
able to
cordial.
afford
They've
it
actually
get
been
there,
really nice to
and we
each other.
make sure then when you get sick and old, it's there for you. Because I heard people say, well, I don't
Thanks,
want to
Max.
buy into Medicare or whatever. Good luck buying health care once you get past 70. So look, the ACA works. We can continue to do better. Kamala Harris did that. The way she made everything better was negotiating those 10 drugs on Medicare for the first time in American history.
Thank you. Margaret,
Can I address that?
I apologize. We're out of
Go
time.
ahead,
We have a
Laura.
number of subjects to discuss. Margaret?
Let's talk about
Trump would have
families
just
in America.
Kept talking. They'd have to
Um,
mute him.
There is a child
Max. Hey, do you guys like this format
in
of
this country, and the
live
United States
reacting
is
to
one
live
of the
stuff?
very few
the first
developed
time I've done this.
countries in the world without a national paid leave program for new parents.
Appreciate y'all being really
Governor
kind to each other.
Walz, you said that if Democrats win both the White House and Congress, this is a day one priority for you. How long should employers be required to pay workers while they are home taking care of their newborns?
I
You
asked
have 2
Mr. Beat
minutes.
and Vlog and Rich to come
well,
on. They were
that's
both
negotiable, and that's what Congress
unavailable.
worked. But here's what the deal is. Americans sitting out there right now, you may work for a big company. Look, we're home in Minnesota to some of the largest Fortune 500 companies. Kamala Harris knows that in California. Those companies provide paid family and medical leave. One is, I think they're moral and they think it's a good thing, but it also keeps their employees healthy. We in Minnesota passed a paid family and medical leave. You have a child, you And I had to go back to work 5 days after my kids were born.
There's paid
This
family
allows you to
medical leave
stay
where I
home a
live.
certain amount of time. What we know is that gets the child off to a better start. The family works better. We stay in their employers. We get more consistency in that. So Kamala Harris has made it a priority. We implemented it in Minnesota, and we see growth. That's how you become a pro-business state. But the negotiations on it, and here's the issue. Those big companies are able to offer it. Those of you out there who don't have it, just imagine what happens if you get cancer or your child gets sick. We know what happens. You end up staying home. In some cases, that means no paycheck because you've got no protection on that. This is the case of an economy that Donald Trump has set for the wealthiest amongst us. He's willing to give those tax breaks to the wealthiest. He's willing to say, bust those unions up, do whatever. What we're saying is the economy works best when it works for all of us. And so a paid family medical leave program, and I will tell you, go to the families or go to the businesses and ask them. As far as childcare on this, you have to take it at both the supply and the demand side. You can't expect the most important people in our lives to take either our children or our parents to get paid the least amount of money. And we have to make it easier for folks to be able to get into that business and then to make sure that folks are able to pay for that. We were able to do it in Minnesota, and I'm still telling you this. We were listed as the best state. We're still in crisis on this. A federal program of paid family and medical leave and help with this will enhance our workforce, enhance our families, and make it easier to have the children that you want.
Governor, your time is up. Senator, do you support a national paid leave program? And if so, for how long should employers be mandated to pay their employees while they are home taking care of their newborn? You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, first of all, Margaret, a number of my Republican colleagues and some Democrats, too, have worked on this issue. And I think there is a bipartisan solution here because a lot of us care about this issue. I mean, look, I speak from this very personally because I'm married to a beautiful woman who's an incredible mother to our 3 beautiful kids,
Indian,
but is
isn't she?
also a very, very brilliant corporate litigator. And I'm so proud of her. But being a working mom, even for somebody with all of the advantages of my wife, is extraordinarily difficult. And it's not just difficult from a policy perspective. She actually had access to paid family leave because she worked for a bigger company. But the cultural pressure on young families and especially young women, I think makes it really hard for people to choose the family model they want. A lot of young women would like to go back to work immediately. Some would like to spend a little time home with the kids. Some would like to spend longer at home with the kids. We should have a family care model that makes choice possible. And I think this is a very important substantive difference between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's approach. I mean, look, if you look at the federal programs that we have that support paid family leave right now, the Community Development Block Grant, and there's another block grant program that spends a lot of money from the federal government. I want to hear you guys on this. These programs only go to one kind of childcare model. Let's say you'd like your church maybe to help you out with childcare.
Is she Hindu?
Maybe you live in a rural area or an urban area and you'd like to get together with families in your neighborhood to provide childcare in the way that makes the most sense. You don't get access to any of these federal monies. We want to promote choice in how we deliver family care and how we promote childcare because look it is unacceptable. And, you know, of course, Tim and I have been on the campaign trail a lot the past 7 or 8 weeks. And one of the biggest complaints I hear from young families is people who feel like they don't have options, like they're choosing between going to work or taking care for their kids. That is an incredible burden to put on American families. We're the only country that does it. I think we could do a heck of a lot batter.
Senator, thank you. You have also
Mr.
said,
Candle, would this mean affirmative action?
Many things about the American family. The Federal Reserve says
to prevent women from
will spend nearly as much on child care as they
leave?
do on housing each month. So I want to get your thoughts on this. President Trump recently said, as much as child care is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kinds of numbers we'll be taking in. Is President Trump committed
Was he
to
the
the
one that said just
$5,000 per
grandparents need to
child
step
tax
up
credit that
and
you have
babysit kids?
described? You have 1 minute.
Didn't he
Well,
say
what President
that?
Trump said, Margaret, I just want to defend my running mate here a little bit,
Vance
is
say
that we're going to be taking in a lot of money by penalizing companies for shipping jobs overseas and penalizing countries who employ slave laborers and then ship their products back into our country and undercut the wages of American workers. It's the heart of the Donald Trump economic plan. Cut taxes for American workers and American families. Cut taxes for businesses that are hiring and building companies in the United States of America, but penalize companies and countries that that are shipping jobs overseas. That's the heart of the economic proposal. And I think what President Trump is saying is that when we bring in this additional revenue with higher economic growth, we're going to be able to provide paid family leave, childcare options that are viable and
I thought he would say
workable
something
for
about
a lot of
immigration.
American families.
Is why childcare is expensive.
Can you clarify how that will solve the childcare shortage?
Exactly. He didn't answer.
Well, because as
people
Tim
will have
said,
more
a lot
money.
of the child care shortage is we just don't have enough resources going into the multiple people who could be providing family care options. And we're going to have to, unfortunately, look, we're going to have to spend more money. We're going to have to induce more people to want to
More
provide
daycares,
child care
what are you
options for
saying?
American families. Because the reason it's so expensive right now is because you've got way too few people providing this very essential service.
Thank you, Senator.
Yeah. I
Governor
don't know if it's going
Walz,
to work. Like,
your
I don't
ticket
think that's
also
gonna
has some
answer it
child care tax
necessarily.
credit proposals. Do you think Congress will
You guys know the
agree
Soviet
to the
Union had
$6,000 credit for newborns and
state-sponsored
$3,000
childcare.
credit for children over the age of 6, as your campaign has
Commies!
promised? Is that realistic?
Well, if these members of Congress are listening to anybody, I can tell you, and this is the biggest issue. Everybody listening tonight knows. I mean, I'm sure they were shocked to hear it's not that expensive. And let's be clear, whether it's 5,000 or 6,000, that plays you about 3 or 4 months. Let's be clear of where we're at on this. It's because we got out of an imbalance on this. We thought we were going to get by not paying people. I don't think Senator Vance and I are that far apart. I'm not opposed to what he's talking about on options. We've done scholarships types of things. I think we need to be open to making the case. But the issue here is, the question you asked is, you're not going to pay for it with
Just
these
like we have
tariffs.
state-sponsored
That's just
education
adding
for
another
their- should there
4,000
be
on the family and
state-sponsored
taking less. So
childcare?
not only do they not get the money to pay for that, they're $4,000 in the hole. That's Wharton School. That's his alma mater. And so I think the issue here is, if those members of Congress, I can't believe they're not. When I go to businesses, sure, they'll talk about taxes sometime, but they will lead with childcare and they will lead with housing, because we know the problem is, especially in a state like Minnesota, we need more
Walz
workers
hasn't
because
really
our
answered the
economy's growing,
question,
but we need the
I don't think.
workforce.
Governor, thank you. We need to move on. Nora?
I don't
Let's
think you
talk about
really
the
answered.
state
Did
of
you really answer the
democracy,
question?
the top
though?
issue for Americans after the economy and inflation. After the 2020 election, President Trump's campaign and others filed 62 lawsuits contesting the results.
25% of you were
Judges,
daycare
including
kids?
those appointed by President Trump and
28%
other
of you.
Republican presidents, looked at the evidence and said there was no widespread fraud. The governors of every state in the nation,
Vance won't
Republicans
say it was
and
stolen.
Democrats,
will
certified
avoid
the
the question.
2020 election results and
doesn't
sent
wanna
a
piss off
legal
Donald.
slate of electors to Congress
But I'm sure he
for January 6th.
won't double down on it.
Senator Vance, you have said you would not have certified the last presidential election and would have asked the states to submit alternative electors. That has been called unconstitutional and illegal. Would you
I think that's
again
as
seek
far
to
as he will
challenge
go on it,
this
though.
year's election results, even if every governor certifies the results? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, Nora, first of all, I think that we're focused on the future. We need to figure out how to solve the
Oh,
inflation
gosh.
crisis caused by Kamala Harris's policies, make housing affordable, make groceries affordable, and that's what we're focused on. But I want to answer your question because you did ask it. Look, what President Trump has said is that there were problems in 2020,
Let me know
and
when he
my own
answers the
belief
question.
is that we should fight about those issues, debate those issues peacefully in the public square. And that's all I've said. And that's all that Donald Trump has said. Remember, he said that on January the 6th, the protesters ought to protest peacefully.
started
And on
answering?
January the 20th, what happened? Joe Biden became the president. Donald Trump left the White House. And now, of course, unfortunately, we have all
not
of the negative
concede.
policies that have come from the Harris-Biden administration. I believe that we actually do have a threat to democracy in this
Thank you.
country, but unfortunately, it's not the threat to democracy that
Channel members
Kamala
get early
Harris
access to all
and Tim
videos
Walz want
and
to talk about.
all
It is
past
the
live
threat
streams.
of censorship. It's Americans casting aside lifelong friendships because of disagreements over politics. It's big technology companies
answering.
silencing their fellow citizens. And it's Kamala Harris saying that rather than debate and persuade her fellow Americans, she'd like to censor people who engage in misinformation.
Didn't answer.
I think that is
Are
a
they gonna
much
push
bigger
back?
threat to democracy than anything that we've seen in this country in the last 4 years, in the last 40
This is
years.
such a
Now, I'm really proud, especially given that I was raised by
Softball
two
for
lifelong
Walz.
blue-collar Democrats, to have the endorsement of Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, lifelong leaders in the Democratic
He had
coalition.
this
And
in
of course,
the
they
chamber.
don't agree with me and Donald Trump on every issue. We don't have to agree
He
on
was
every
gonna say
issue,
this
but we're united behind a
at some
basic
point in the night,
American First Amendment principle
regardless
that
of
we
the
ought to
question.
debate our differences. We ought to argue about them. We ought to try to persuade our fellow Americans. Kamala Harris is engaged in censorship at an industrial scale. She did it during COVID. She's
Closest
done
thing
it
you
over a
said
number of other issues. And
is I
that to
don't
me
agree
is a
with
much
Trump on
bigger
everything.
threat to democracy than what Donald Trump said when he said that protesters should peacefully protest on January the 6th.
Governor?
Democrats do not.
Well, I've
have never
enjoyed tonight's
claimed
debate, and I think
RFK.
there was a lot of commonality here. And I'm sympathetic to misspeaking on things, and I think I might have with the senator. But
me
there's,
too, man.
There's one.
To defend,
There's one
to
though that
defend
this
Vance
one is troubling
can't
to me, and I
go
say that because I think
against
we need
Trump.
to tell the story. Donald Trump
Trump
refused
will
to acknowledge
can
this. And
people
the
that
fact
don't go
is
with
that
him.
I don't think we can be the frog in the pot and let the boiling water go up. He was very
I
clear.
don't know
mean,
if
he
Vance
lost
can
this
say what he
election,
wants to say.
and he said he didn't. 140 police officers were beaten at the Capitol that day. Some with the American flag. Several later died. And it wasn't just in there. In Minnesota, a group gathered on the state capitol grounds in St. Paul and said, "We're marching to the governor's residence and there may be casualties." The only person there was my son and his dog, who was rushed out crying by state police.
Jack, that was the first question.
That issue.
the first
and
question,
Mike
Jack.
Pence standing
You-
there as they were
are you late?
chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." Mike Pence made the right decision. So, Senator, it was adjudicated over and over and over. I worked with kids long enough to know, and I said as a football coach, sometimes you really want to win, but the democracy is bigger than winning an election.
Oh, for sure. But this
You
question
shake
wasn't
hands,
for him, though.
and then you try and do everything you can to help the
He
other
dodged
side
the
win.
China question.
That's
Walls did.
what was at stake here. Now, the thing I'm most concerned about is the idea that imprisoning
That
your-
question was for Van.
your political opponents, already laying the groundwork for people not accepting this. And a president's words matter. A president's words matter. People hear that. So I think this issue of settling our differences at the ballot box, shaking hands when we lose, being honest about it, but to deny what happened
Yeah,
on January
Chatter.
6th, the first time in American history
Trump advance will want this
that
question
a
asked.
president
I don't think
or
it's going to
anyone
happen.
tried to overturn a fair election and the peaceful transfer of power. And here we are 4 years later in the same boat. I will tell you this, that when this is over, we need to shake hands this election, and the winner needs to be the winner. This has got to stop. It's tearing our country apart.
Margaret?
Senator Vance, did
Sorry,
you want to
audio
respond to
levels are
that?
automatic.
Yeah, well, look, Tim, first of all, it's really rich for Democratic leaders to say that Donald Trump is a unique threat to democracy when he peacefully gave over power on January the 20th, as we have done for 250 years in this country. We are going to shake hands after this debate and after this election. And of course, I hope that we win, and I think we're going to win. But if Tim Walz is the next vice president, he'll have my prayers, he'll have my best wishes, and he'll have my help whenever he wants it. But we have to remember that for years in this country, Democrats protested the results of elections.
What would be an example
Hillary
of
Clinton
him doing
in
it not
2016 said that Donald Trump had the election stolen by Vladimir Putin because the Russians bought like $500,000 worth of Facebook ads. This has been going on for a long time. And if we want to say that
Russian
we need
bots.
to respect the results of the election, I'm on board. But if we want to say, as Tim Walz is saying, that this is just a problem that Republicans have had, I don't buy that.
Governor?
January 6th was not Facebook ads. And I think a revisionist history on this. Look, I
That was actually a pretty
don't
good
understand how we
response.
got to this point. But the issue
Martial
was
law?
that happened. Donald Trump
Yeah.
didn't do it. And all of us say there's no place for this. It has massive repercussions.
Trump
This
could have
idea
done
that
martial
there's
law.
censorship to stop people from threatening to kill someone,
Did that even
threatening to do
happen?
something. That's not censorship. Censorship is book banning. We've seen that. We've seen that brought up. I just think for
Would the military
everyone
follow suit
tonight,
on that?
and
though?
I'm going to thank Senator Vance. I think this is the conversation they want to hear. And I think there's a lot of agreement. But this is one that we are miles apart on. This was a threat to our democracy in a way that we had not seen. And it manifested
gonna
itself
lie,
because of Donald
don't
Trump's
really
inability
care.
to say. He is still
I don't need
saying
to hear any
he
more
didn't
about
lose the
January
election. I
6th.
would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the
I don't
future. Did
think
Kamala Harris
there's any
censor
point
Americans
anymore.
from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020
Like people
COVID
already
situation?
think what
That
they
is,
Has
want
she
to think
tried
about
to-
it.
that is a damning non-answer.
It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship. Obviously, Donald Trump and I think that there were problems in 2020. We've talked about it. I'm
I think
happy
the
to talk
question was
about
about
it further.
censorship, right?
But you guys attack us for not believing in democracy, the most sacred right under the
Yeah,
United
people need
States
to stop
democracy
saying threat to
is the First
democracy all the
Amendment.
time.
You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to
No,
use the
threatening or
power
hate
of
speech.
government and big tech to silence people from speaking their minds. That is a threat to democracy that will long outlive this present political moment. I would like Democrats and Republicans to both reject censorship.
I think
Let's
this was the
persuade
best.
one another. Let's argue about ideas, and then
Vance
let's
did a
come
good
together
job at
afterwards.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
the
That's
skill
the test. That's the Supreme
needed
Court
to answer
test.
that question.
Tim, fire in a crowded theater. You guys wanted to kick people off of Facebook for saying that toddlers shouldn't
Senator,
wear
the governor
masks.
does
That's
have the
not
floor.
Sorry.
Fire in a crowded theater. That is criticizing the policies of the government, which is the right of every American.
Senator, the governor does have the floor for 1 minute to
Please.
respond to you.
Yeah. Well, I don't run Facebook. What I do know is I see a candidate out there who refused, and now again, and this I'm pretty shocked by this.
I do hear a lot
He
of
lost the election. This is not a debate.
them saying
It's not,
you guys,
it's not anything anywhere
you guys.
other than in Donald Trump's world. Because look, when Mike Pence made that decision to certify that election, that's why Mike Pence isn't on this stage. What I'm
True.
concerned about is where is the
Do you guys remember
firewall
Mike Pence?
with Donald Trump? Where is the firewall if he knows he could do anything, including taking an election, and his vice president's
You think
not
he
going
was
to
talking
stand
about
up?
masks?
That's what we're asking you, America. Will you stand up? Will you keep your oath of office, even if the president doesn't? And I think Kamala Harris would agree. She wouldn't have picked me if she didn't think I would do that, because of course that's what we would do. So America, I think you've got a really clear choice on this election of who's going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
Governor, your time is up. Thank you, gentlemen. We will be right back with both of our candidates. The CBS News
How
Vice
long is this going, by the
Presidential
way?
debate continues.
All right. What's up, y'all? It's 90 minutes. No, we're past 90 minutes. It started as we're past 90 minutes. So anyway. Sorry, yeah, the dog also shakes the desk. All right. Yeah, what do you guys think so far? It's sure been a lot more cordial. You guys like that, or do you watch debate for entertainment? That should be a question. Why do you guys watch debates? You're obviously watching this. Is it because you want to support your team? Is it to learn about the candidates? Is it because you don't know yet who you I'll make this a poll. Let's make this a poll. Give me some. Okay, the question is going to be, why do you watch debates? What do you think would be some good options for this? Why do you watch debates? To support your team / candidate. To learn about the candidate. You're undecided. Entertainment. I should say, why do you watch debates the most? To support your team / candidate. Or party, I should say. To support your party or candidate, to learn about the candidates. You're undecided. How about yeah, some of you say to be angry. Can I do another? Oh, I can only do these options. Let's just do this. Let's just do this. All right, new poll up. What do you think? Why do you watch debates the most? to support your party / candidate, to learn about the candidates, you're undecided, or entertainment. Now, it might be a mix of those, but which one do you think is the biggest reason? And be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Be honest. So we say to learn about the candidates. Entertainment is up there 5% because you're undecided on the issue. Isn't that interesting? Because here's what's interesting. What should be the answer? Do you guys think about? Like, do you think? What do you think should, like, there's one thing to say what you believe is the reason you watch it, but what do you think should be the point of debates? What is the mix of all? That's why I said, what reason is the most? What reason's the most there? But here's the thing. Did you guys watch Trump Biden? Did you watch that to learn about the debate? Or sorry, to learn about the candidates? Didn't you already know about them? Do you watch debates of people you already know? This is a little bit different because these are two generally unknowns. People didn't know these people. These people were just appointed or just nominated or whatever within the last
The CBS
couple months.
News vice presidential debate. It is now
All right,
time
we're back.
for the closing statement.
All right,
Senator
closing statement.
Vance won the virtual coin toss and elected to go last. So, Governor Walz, you are
The coin
first.
toss was rigged.
Well,
The
thank you,
coin toss
Senator
was
Vance.
rigged.
Thank you to CBS News. And most importantly, thank you to all of you. If you're still up and the folks who miss Dancing with Our Stars, I
Thanks,
appreciate
JZ
it. But
Gamer.
look,
Thanks, guys,
the
for the
support
super
of the
chats.
democracy matters.
Like the video.
It
Sub to my
matters that
channel
you're
if you
here.
haven't.
And I'm as surprised as anybody.
Enable
of this
notifications.
coalition that Kamala
My
Harris
channel's
has
in
built.
the algorithm
From
hell right
Bernie
now.
Sanders
You're
to
likely
Dick
not
Cheney
seeing my
to Taylor
videos on your
Swift,
feeds right now.
and a whole bunch of folks in between there. And they don't all agree on everything, but they are truly optimistic people. They believe in a positive future of this country and one where our politics can be better than it is. And I have to tell you that that better than it is the sense of optimism that there can be an opportunity economy that works for everyone, not just to get by, but to get ahead. And the idea that freedom really means something, not the freedom of government to be in your bedroom or exam room, but the freedom for you to make choices
Debate
about
Lord.
yourself. Now, look, we all know who Donald Trump is. He's told us, and as Maya Angelou said, believe him when he told you that. His first inaugural address talked about American carnage, and then he spent 4 years trying to maybe do that.
The poll's only
Senator
1%
Vance
off.
tonight made it clear he will stand with Donald Trump's agenda. He will continue to push down that road. Excuse me. Kamala Harris gives us a different option. Now, I'll have to tell you, I'm going to be careful about the quotes, but there's one that Senator Vance said that does resonate with me.
I'd have to spend a lot more
He said
time
Donald
researching
Trump
Project
makes the people I
25,
care about
and I don't
afraid.
really care to.
A lot of America feels that
be
way.
honest.
We don't need to be afraid. Franklin Roosevelt was right. All we have to
I don't
fear
have the
is fear
time, to
itself.
be honest.
Kamala Harris is bringing us a new way forward. She's
do enough
bringing us a
research to make
politics
a
of
video.
joy. She's bringing real solutions for the middle class, and she's centering you at the heart of that. All the while asking everyone, join this movement, make your
Live long.
voices heard. Let's look for a new day where everybody gets that opportunity and everybody gets a chance to thrive. I humbly ask for
All
your
right.
vote on November 5th for Kamala Harris.
Governor Walz,
I will say,
thank
you guys think
Senator
Tom-
Vance,
or
your
Tom-
closing statement.
I
or
want to thank Governor
you think that
Walz, you folks at
does
CBS,
Walz
and of
seem like
course
a
the
nice
American
guy to
people
you
for
guys?
tuning in
Like,
this
you
evening.
feel like he's like
One of the
whether
issues
you
we
disagree
didn't
with
talk
me, do you feel
about
like
was
he's
energy.
like a nice
And I
guy.
remember when I was being raised by my grandmother, when she didn't have enough money to turn on the heat some nights because Ohio gets pretty cold at night and because money was often very tight.
Do you think
And I
Vance is a nice
believe,
guy?
As a person who wants to be
You guys
your
think
next vice
Vance,
president,
who's
that
the
we are a
nicer
rich
guy?
and prosperous enough country where every American, whether they're rich or poor, ought to be able to turn on their heat in the middle of a cold winter night. That's gotten more difficult thanks to Kamala Harris's energy policies. I believe that whether
Nice
you're
old
rich
grandpa.
or poor, you ought to be able to afford a nice meal for your family. That's gotten harder because of Kamala Harris's policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to
New
afford to
poll.
buy a house. You ought to be able to live in safe neighborhoods. You ought to not have
You're
your
nicer
communities
guy.
flooded with fentanyl. And that too has gotten harder with Kamala because of Kamala Harris's policies. Now, I've been in politics
Fentanyl.
long enough to do what Kamala Harris does when she stands before the American people and says that on day one, she's going to work on all these challenges I just listed. She's been the vice president for 3.5 years. Day one was 1,400 days ago, and her policies have made these problems worse. Now, I believe that we have the most beautiful country in the world.
I'm
I
going to do a
meet people
final
on the
poll too.
campaign
Don't leave
trail
after we're
who
done.
can't afford food, but have the grace and generosity to ask me how I'm doing and to tell me they're praying for my family. What that has taught me is that we have the greatest country, the most beautiful country, the most incredible people anywhere in the world. But they're not going to be able to achieve
I'm not
their
saying who do you
full
like,
dreams.
like who's
with the
going to be a
broken
better
leadership
candidate.
that we have in Washington. They're not
just
going
for
to be
fun.
able to live their American dream if we do the same thing that we've been doing for the last 3.5 years.
They're both
We need
aliens.
change. We need a new direction. We need a president who has already done this once before and did it well. Please vote for Donald Trump. And whether you vote for me or vote for Tim Walz, I just want to say I'm so proud to be
I'm not
doing
really
this,
voting
and
for
I'm rooting
them.
for you. God bless you, and good night.
Senator Vance, thank you. And thank you both for participating
Talk about
in
whose
the
golf
only
handicap
vice
is
presidential debate
lower.
of this election cycle. I'm Margaret Brennan.
And I'm Nora O'Donnell. And a reminder, there are just 35 days until Election Day. Please get out and vote. And for all of us here at CBS News, thank you and good night.
I don't think I got copyright strike. Hey, don't leave yet. I'm going to do one final poll. I want to know, who do you guys think you'll be voting for? I'm going to put up a poll. Who do you think you'll vote for? Trump/Vance. I am truly interested in this. Don't leave yet. Trump, Vance, or Harris, Walz. All right. The poll is up. Who do you think you'll vote for, everybody? Do you guys like, okay, to be honest, do you wish it was a little bit more hostile? I guess, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but like, do you wish it was? I just said, who do you think? If you're not going to vote, don't click anything. Ooh, I should have done that. Hold on. Stop the count. Stop the count. Stop the count. I want to add that. I actually want to know how many of you are not going to vote. You already know. Hold on a sec. Hold on. I do want to add that. Who do you think you'll vote for? I'm going to give a third answer. Trump, Vance. And if you are not an American, just don't vote. Don't click anything, okay? Trump, Vance, Harris, Walz. Not voting by choice. And what I mean by choice is you have the ability to vote, but you can't vote. If you're underage, don't click anything either. Or whatever. If you can't vote for whatever reason. Okay, new poll. New poll. Okay, this is the one I want to see now. Who do you think you'll vote for? And you're not voting, but you have the opportunity to. So, like, you're an American. That's what I mean by that. Interesting. Wait, what was when I stopped it? What were we at? Let me scroll up. What were we up? It was 69%. Oh, interesting. Okay, so before I did that, it was at 200 votes. It was 69% Harris Walz, 30% Vance. And now it's 57. So it looks like there was a chunk of people. Interesting. If you changed your vote to non-voting, did you vote on the first one? Because it looks like from here, people that voted for Harris, maybe some people that voted for Harris Walz switched to not voting. Is that because for any reason, or did you just not vote in the first one? That's kind of interesting. All right, I will go through all super chats you guys give me in the next few minutes here before we head out. But yeah, go ahead and chat. Tell me what you think about it. Tell me what is going on, what's going through your mind as we are a month away, basically a month away now from this election. How many of you will this be your first time voting? You just become of age. Jerome, thank you for the $10. Says, gotta love how Vance talks about the experts like there's some kind of shadowy monolith. I mean, it is interesting. There is definitely people that just do not trust experts. I mean, I don't know if you call it paranoia or you feel like there's justification for that, and maybe it depends on the thing. But I mean, there are people in general that do not trust experts of anything, medical, health, scientists, historians. You know what I mean? It's just, it's got to agree, already agreed to your predispositions. Thank you, Jerome. Thank you so much. Yeah, if anyone else has anything to say up here, I'll go over your super chats. Jay-Z Gamer, I was gonna vote Kamala, but since she didn't pick Andy Bashir as VP, I'm not voting. I'm not for Kentucky, but he's cool in similar beliefs. Do you think Bashir has? Because that was definitely a candidate. Do you think there's a big difference between Bashir's policies and Walz, or are you being like petty? What do you think? Second time for me. Next time I will vote. Experts can be good, but it's nuanced. Who's funding the experts? That's very true. That's very true. I'm glad you said that. That is something we need to analyze. You guys know every poll, everything you look at, you look at the sources. Who's funding the polls? Who's funding the studies? Hope you guys know that's a big deal. That is a big deal. Yeah, that's fair, Newsman. But I feel like your take there is different than a lot of other people's. I think a lot of people's distrust doesn't necessarily come from some well thought out logical like position. It's just like narcissism, maybe. Like, do you guys know people that don't trust experts because they're just narcissists? They just think they know better. You know what I mean? All right, Becca, thank you so much. And by the way, thanks for becoming a channel member earlier. We had a new channel member. Great. Actually, I got to edit after we're done here. I got to edit tomorrow's video, get that up. In fact, when I upload that video, it'll be up. It's the I'll tell you, tomorrow's video is alternate history. What if somebody won the Korean War? It was pretty good. It was pretty good. So, but anyways, once I upload that tonight, it'll be available for channel members until the official release tomorrow morning. So, all right, Becca said, I used to be an election day worker and I understand the process more than most do. All this fraud talk is infuriating. Do you feel like as an election day worker, it's how difficult is it to actually mess with the votes? You know what I mean? You know how people were saying like they were throwing votes away and all that kind of stuff. Like, how much do you think it's possible for an election day worker to commit fraud? And what type of fraud could potentially an election, like a poll worker, actually commit? I'd be interested to know that because I know like poll workers have all come out, and even in those areas where there was messed up stuff, saying like, no, we didn't see anything, wrong. But then again, are they just part of the problem? I guess that would be it. So anyway, Ethan, thanks for the commentary. Any idea where the 25 million illegal population come from? Always seeing 11 to 12. Yeah, I don't know exactly, but nobody facts check. Like, how do you like? It is an interesting thing because like, how do you have documentation of illegal people? You know what I mean? Which doesn't happen in a lot of cases. A lot of them do get vetted. They get captured or whatever, then vetted. But of course, many don't. So that is interesting. How do you document undocumented people? Is that something that people can skew in their own, to their own, their own ends that way? So anyway, I hope you guys didn't think I came off as like trying to be like one-sided or anything. I tried to, call out things that I have. Doesn't mean I'm not biased. Never believe anybody that says they're not biased. Everyone has biases, and they're not by choice. The only thing by choice is, when it comes to bias, is admitting to your biases. So everyone has biases just by existing. Your experience in life is different than somebody else's. So your views are going to be shaped by your experiences. You can't be shaped by views and things you've never heard or experienced before. So you seem unbiased. I mean, whatever. I like making fun of politics. Don't trust anyone that says they're unbiased. Yeah. And don't trust, yeah. It's just, admitting to it. So anyway, yeah, thanks everyone. Starve Harv has a new video. Oh yeah, did I do Oh, I meant to do his last one. It was like English history, bad translations of English history. What's the new one? With Starve Harv, Starve Harv, I wait for him. He is a young channel that needs to get organic growth. So he needs to get the natural early views. So he's somebody that I wait a few days or even a week or two to look at his content. I don't want to, you know, hurt his views in whatever way. But even though he's down with it, that's my policy with that. Big channels, it doesn't really matter so much. So, or if somebody is obviously supportive of someone doing it early on, like Fat Electrician doesn't care if I upload a reaction video on the first day it comes out. He loves it. He loves reactors. He says it's free advertising, which is true, and it's really helped his channel grow. So anyway, thanks for caring about the people react to. Yep. I'll never react to somebody that doesn't want me to. And that's extremely rare. 99% of all people I react to like it. So don't ever think that there's some like big riff between reactors. Yeah, again, it depends on the content. Some stuff you got to get on soon. You know what I mean? All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we head out? I do need to edit a video. Oh, I'm doing something really cool tomorrow in my class. You guys want to hear? You guys want to hear what's going on in Mr. Terry's history class tomorrow? So in my regular world history class, we are just finishing our Greece unit. We're getting into Rome. You should get on the subscribe podcast. I don't know where we're at on that, but Fat Electrician was going to talk to the producers about it. I'd probably have to go fly down to San Antonio or something. But anyway, we're doing class Olympics. Now, I've done class Olympics for a long time. Like in my class, I got another teacher. My class is going to compete with another class in class Olympics. We're going to do some physical competitions and some mental ones for the people that aren't physically gifted that way. So we're going to do a class on class. My class is going to be a city state and his class is going to be a city state. We're going to go outside. We're going to do a bunch of physical and mental things. It's going to be really fun. So I'm hoping it will be. My AP class, they're not doing something nearly as fun. What are we doing tomorrow? Tomorrow we're talking about the environmental. It's either environmental or economic consequences of connections during 1450 or 1200 to 1450. So I think we might be talking if it's either I forgot if it's either economic or environmental. It's one of the other ones. One of those days we'll talk about the plague, then when we'll talk economics, but we kind of been doing that. We've been talking about trade routes. I forget which time. Anybody in AP World? We just did cultural connections. So we talked about Marco Polo and Ibn Battuta, and also the spread of Buddhism into China and the creation of Neo-Confucianism. This is the book we use in AP. Hey, there's plenty of smart people in my AP class that suck at it because they're lazy. Environmental. Okay, we're talking plague tomorrow. We are going to be talking about the plague tomorrow. We're going to read some. Oh, did I forget to? I forgot to print out the documents. We're going to read some documents from different parts of the world that talk about where they think the plague comes from. It's so funny. They're like, dude, it's like vapors in the air are like killing people, and then everyone thinks the plague came from somewhere else as well. But yeah, how much does that book cost to buy? My book is a paperback book. This costs like $25. It's technically more like a review book, but I use it as my official book. If you want just a good 1200 to 1400, just kind of, quick readings, quizzes. It's a good book. My school pays for each kid to get one individually, which is nice. So they get to write in it and keep it. So anyway, what kind of music do you like? Oh, were you guys here? Were you guys not here yesterday with my album release? Do you guys want to do? I'll do it real quick. Do you guys want to hear my album I made? I made an album of theme songs for my channel of different genres. Oh, what are you joining? Tom Grossi, dude, it's up to him. He is so busy with things. And even though I have a teaching job in that, Tom, I'm glad you guys know about Tom. Yeah, I want to work with Tom. Tom Grossi, best person making NFL football content right now. He's hilarious. He was a former teacher, and I've talked to him a lot. He was an incredible teacher. He would tell me about his teaching styles and like lessons. He was incredible. I actually want to learn about him a lot. So Walt's handled protest. They didn't even talk about the protest. They didn't ask him about BLM protests because they've been doing that. Who do I think is going to win? You know what? This is so interesting because actually, let's put it up to a poll, you guys. I actually want you to ask who do you think is going to win? Not who you're going to vote for, but who do you think will win? I am unconfidently saying it's going to be Harris Walz, but I am very not confident with that. Yeah, you guys were super civil. I really appreciate that. Man, it'd be cool if they snuck in another debate. I think they already said the presidential candidates are not going to do it. So I don't. But I would like to do an election night. Would you guys like to do that? Like a whole election night thing? We'll start maybe when the polls close, the first polls close, and then just go till whenever. I'm hoping I don't teach that next day. Or if I don't, I'll maybe take it off. But yeah, a few nights. We all get, everyone gets food. We get some pizza or something. Maybe we'll get pizza, get some snacks, and we'll just watch the world burn. Maybe I can bring on some guests. All right, here's the poll. Who do you think will win? Denmark debate. Do they debate if their country exists? Isn't that the meme? Guys, which country that is said to be a country do you think doesn't actually exist? Is it Finland? If you're a flat earther, it's Australia. Australia is fake. They're all actors. Belgium is just France. Canada, bruh, I'm half Finnish. Finland doesn't exist. Even though you guys have probably like the best educational system. You guys do, man, you have to have like a master's degree to teach in Finland. And their teachers aren't just like crapped on. I am envious of that. Rate the debate? I hate that. I don't know. No, guys, it's a fun question. It's a funny question. It's not like, oh, Israel, Palestine. No, that's not fun. That's not a fun answer. Do you guys see what I'm the vice president of here? Do you guys see what I'm the vice president of? Saying Israel, Palestine is not fun. You got to say fun things. Like Australia or Finland or how about this? Which states in the United States don't actually exist? I don't think Maine exists. Maine doesn't exist. Have you ever heard anything about Maine? Have you ever known it? Like nobody's from Maine. Nobody's from Maine. Wyoming, I can confirm the physical place exists because I've driven through it a bunch of times. But I'm not necessarily confident that it's not just another state. There's like a physical thing I've driven through that. Like you don't just fall into a hole when you cross from like Colorado into Wyoming. There is something physical there, but I cannot confirm that it is a whole different state. Maine doesn't exist. Oregon exists. Oregon very much exists. North Dakota. There are no reason for 2 Dakotas other than to give more rural votes in the United States. That's why there's 2 Dakotas. So it could be 4 senators instead of like 2. More rural voting power. No, Maine doesn't exist, guys. When have you ever heard anything ever happening in Maine? Oh, Ohio? No. Ohio is so memed. It definitely exists. Rhode Island. But they were like... Rhode Island exists because they pretty much held up the Constitution from being ratified almost single-handedly. Oh yeah, I was gonna add my my music videos. Guys, I made an album, an AI-assisted album, but not just like pushed enter and make song. I did a lot of work with it and messing with the algorithm and the content and the lyrics to make a some really crafted music. Some really crafted music. So it's 10 songs. Do you guys want to hear? Here we go. The opening track is called Prime. And if you guys want the link to download my music, I'll give it to you. No charge.
Mr. Terry in the classroom, history flows like a monsoon. On the screen, he breaks the mold, stories told like they're gold. Ancient times to modern days, Mr. Terry leads the way. With his facts and tales so bright, watch the past come to light. Mr. Terry got the groove, on YouTube he makes the move. Hit play, learn and see, travel through history. Spinning time with flashing lights, from the days to the nights. Every video holds a clue, history that's fresh and new. Black was made as screens glow, bringing past life to show. Learn the tales he brings alive. Mr. Terry's in his prime. Mr. Terry got the groove, on YouTube he makes the move. Hit play, learn and see, travel through history.
Thank you, Galen. Galen,
Spending time with flashing lights,
you bought
from
the album.
days to the nights.
Technically bought the album,
Every
Galen.
video holds a clue, history that's fresh and new. Black ones fade as screens glow, bringing
You're
past
bland.
life to show.
You're
Learn the
bland.
tales he brings alive. Mr. Terry's in his prime. Mr. Terry got the groove.
I made
On
this for intro
YouTube he
videos.
makes the move. Hit play, learn and see, travel through history.
That was the opening track called Prime. This one's called Set Knowledge Free. You like that? Synthwave. This is another kind of synthy song. The lighter ones I changed to about 3 different genres. This one's really good too, I think. Here we go.
Mr. Terry on the screen, teaching history, making learning cool and keen with his YouTube stream. Ancient tales us back with vibrant lines in the neon nights. It's a Terry's time machine. Travel back, you'll see. Stories vivid, bright and clean. He sets knowledge free. From the pharaohs to the moon, every era's bright. In his videos, you'll soon
Actually, one of my mods says she lives in Maine.
Learning feels so cool with him under synthwave skies. Videos that never dim, look and read all nights. Listen, Terry's time machine travels back.
I'm playing all the song there. That one's okay. Okay, this one's interesting. This next one's interesting because I've had people tell me that they really like it. It's one of their favorites, but I like all the songs. I really do because I worked on them. But like, I don't love this one necessarily. If you guys know the band Bastille, it gives me Bastille vibes. This one I call Time Machine. By the way, the videos on here don't have the accurate names on them.
In the bathroom light together, Mr. Terry takes us further, past the pages, past the screens. In his words we find our dreams.
I used to live in Minnesota.
A history wizard with a smile, every lesson worth a while. Ancient tales and modern lore, on his channel there's much more. Mr. Terry's time machine, teaching history like a dream. Past and present like you've never seen. Mr. Terry's time machine. The Greeks to Renaissance, every era we would dance. On the journey through the ages, written down on all the pages. Classes start to arches, capturing history through the years. With his passion and his flair,
You take 1 year of Utah history here in
Mr.
the 7th grade.
Terry's time machine, teaching history like a dream. Past and present like you've never seen. Mr. Terry's time machine.
Doesn't this sound like Bastille?
Mr. Terry's time machine.
I do like Spin. This is the last Spin song.
From the Greeks to Renaissance, every era we would dance. On the journey through the ages, written down on all the pages. Classes start to arches, capturing history through the years. With his passion
Are you guys on the
and his
Discord
flair,
server?
we journey
Where my mod
anywhere. Mr.
Join the
Terry's time
Discord server.
machine, teaching history like a dream. Past and present like you've never seen. Mr. Terry's time machine. Mr. Terry's time machine, teaching Mr. Terry's time machine.
Everyone join the Discord server. All right, that one. Okay, now you ready? Y'all ready for some pop? Time for some straight up pop bangers. This song is Teach Us More. It has a great hook in the chorus. There's not really a winner of the debate. There's no really winning debates. There's only losing, to be honest. Not in political debates. I know there's like real debates that you actually get graded on, but okay, this song's called Teach Us More. It has a pretty nice hook and chorus.
Mr. Terry's in the class. History's his favorite past.
I don't know what that means, though.
Telling tales of times gone by. With this passion reaching high.
Professor,
He's got a YouTube
Discord
channel
links.
too. Shows us what the ancients knew. Makes it fun to learn and play. Brings the past to life each day.
I probably have hundreds of hours streaming
Mr.
civilization on
Terry
here.
teaches more. History's an open door. On the
I love
screen and
civilization.
in the room. Bringing facts like boom, boom, boom. From the Romans to Greece. stories never seem to cease.
Winning is relative.
And the students come
In-
alive
Political debate.
when they see his videos thrive. Ancient maps and battles told, Mr. Terry breaks the mold. Teachers all around declare, wish they had his flair.
No, it's pretty diverse, their melody selections they give you.
Mr. Terry teaches more. History's an open door.
It should only be 2 booms, not 3.
Bringing facts up, boom, boom, boom.
It should say, it's supposed to say go boom boom. See, that one's fun. I just wanted some fun songs. Guys, you have no idea how many songs and editing I went through to like get these songs to sound the way I wanted to. I went through like deleted so many. Yeah, go boom boom. I thought that'd be a fun hook. Go boom boom. But it's go it did 3 booms, but whatever. Okay. All right, this one was probably the first one. And actually, a couple people have already said they liked this one. This one, the vibe is like, this sounds like it could be the opening to like a Nickelodeon show about some cool teacher that the kids like. Some like junior high cool teacher named Mr. Terry, which isn't really me, but like, whatever. Tell me if this gives intro to TV vibes.
Mr. Terry in the classroom, bright, teaching history with all his might. Every story he thrills and excites, makes the past come alive and light. Mr. Terry on the YouTube station, sharing lessons on every age. Every video a brand new page. History's back and it's all the rage.
Texas Pledge is wild.
Mr. Terry, teach
That they
us
do that.
please. With your story, set us free. From the past to what will be. Mr. Terry's the key. Mr. Terry's the key. From ancient walls to castles grand, in Mr. Terry's world we stand. With every word we understand, the timeline's moved by his command. Romans, Greeks, and dynasties, Mr. Terry with expertise, he brings to life these memories with passion, teaching histories. Mr. Terry, teach us
Should just say history there,
please.
not history.
With your story, set us free.
Dude, Rancid's
From the
sick.
past to
I like
what
Rancid.
will be. Mr. Terry's the key.
I want to do an album of diss tracks. That might be my next thing. Like history ones, like epic rap battles.
From ancient walls to castles grand, in Mr. Terry's world we stand. With every word we understand, the timeline's moved by his command. Mr. Terry's the key. Mr. Terry's the key. Terry's class.
Oh, what? That song was over anyways. Okay. This one has a way good hook in it.
Mr. Terry's class begins, lessons full of wins. History made so fun, teaching everyone. Videos every night, stories come to light. Inspiring young and old with
Thanks, Monty
tales
Python, for the
told.
$5. Blues
Mr.
song.
Terry's history in every clip we see. Captured moments, fame, never quite the same. Ancient wars and heroes through highs and lows. Every fact we crave.
Oh, yeah, that's the name of the
living
song.
story brave.
That's the name of the song right there.
Every turn and twist, nothing's ever missed. Dates and names so clear each time we're here. Mr. Terry's history in every clip we see. Captured moments, fame, never quite the same.
Great, easy melody. I love the solos you can get in
Ancient wars and heroes through highs and lows. Every fact we crave, living stories brave. Every turn and twist, nothing's ever missed. Dates and names so clear each time we're here. Mr. Terry's history in every clip we see. Captured moments, fame, never quite the same.
Thank you, Steven.
Terry's history in every clip we see. Captured moments, fame, never quite the same.
This shirt was so freaking big. Our Carhartt shirt is so big. I look enormous. I like that one. That one's good. Yeah, Awash, I think if you were supportive of one of these candidates, you got what you wanted. Like you were satisfied for the most part. That's what I think. But I mean, that's usually how it goes. With the outlier of people that watched Biden, that liked Biden, probably thought he did terrible and literally dropped out because of it. So, all right, we're moving towards pop punk now, guys. Pop punk, if you know, is my genre. My favorite band of all time is Blink-182. So I'm going to start moving to some pop punk on these next couple songs in the album here. This one's a little bit more poppy, though. It's called Feels So Right.
Mr. Terry.
Oh, sorry, let me rewind that. Paramore, yeah. When I used to do music journalism, I interviewed Paramore back in the day. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, Paramore, especially like the early Paramore. I love that stuff. Misery Business era. Yeah, their first like EP with Emergency. That was like the first song I loved by them. And then they went, huge.
Mr. Terry in the room, books and chalk dust in the air. He inspires with a boom. Every lesson shows he cares. Spinning tales of days gone by. He makes the stories dance with a spark in his eye. He gives the past a chance. Mr. Terry makes it fun. History with passion bright on YouTube and in the sun. Let it feel so right. Every chapter comes to life. Kings and queens and battles fought through the turmoil and the strife. It's more than dates and thoughts.
I like
Every
that.
chapter
A good
comes
lyric.
to life. Kings and queens and battles fought through the turmoil and the strife. It's more than dates and thoughts. Inspiring the minds anew. His videos light up the screen. Mr. Terry's always true to the dreams he makes them dream. Mr. Terry makes it fun. History with passion bright on YouTube and in the sun. Let it feel so right.
Thanks, Art. Anyway, you want the concert? It's free right now. You want to buy tickets? You'd have to send a super chat, I guess. All right, this next one is the most Blink of all the songs I got. It's especially early Blink, very much like that. So like very early Blink. Unfortunately, it got cut off, and there's like the first minute 42, then the last 55 seconds. It's 2 clips, and I'll try to make it seamless if I can, but like it's very old Blink in its pacing. It's got the the tempo half like double time tempo, but then the verse is very poppy. So anyways, this one I called Sail.
This time is closeted. His story folks can't wait. With a smile at the board. His passion strikes a chord.
What?
On YouTube, his channel finds ancient worlds in modern eyes. Every tale, he makes it real.
Okay, there we go.
Knowledge bonds, we feel the seal. Hey, Mr. Terry, rocking the past. Lessons learned, they always last. Films and clips, he makes it fun. Inspiring lives, one by one. Dates and facts, he makes them sing. Pirate tales,
I like that idea.
ancient kings.
Thank you, Monty Python Queen.
Interactive.
Thanks so much for donating so much tonight. Love you, thanks.
We'll always sail. Hey, Mr. Terry, rocking the past. Lessons learned, they always last. Films and clips, he makes it fun. Inspiring minds.
I've heard of Operation Ivy, but don't know their stuff. Like from that era.
History's twist, clever tricks. On his channel, we're alive. Through the ages, we will dive.
Sounds like anything pop punk. More modern now. Especially with the verses, the chorus. Okay, this is where I gotta add the other part. Hold on. It cut off the next part. The rest of the solo bridge. Drums are good on that song. A drum string. I play drums. I have an electric set.
Hey, Mr. Terry, rocking the past. Lessons learned, they always last. Films and clips, he makes it fun. Inspiring minds, one by one. Late at night, eating pips. History's twist, clever tricks. On his channel, we're alive. Through the ages, we will dive.
Like that one? If you like drums, okay, this next song, I have 2 left to share with you guys. This is my favorite. It's my most, I'm proud of this next one, and I'm most impressed by this next song. It's got like 3 bridges in it, three or 4. That all are great. And it also lyrically, I feel like, is quite good. And it's got a great take on a term, twist and turns. But it talks about history is full of twists and burns. That's why I called this song Twist and Burn. But I'm probably more proud of this song than any of the other songs. Twist and Burn. Here we go.
Mr. Terry stands tall in the classroom glare, filling minds with stories, hearts with care.
Yeah, Transplant.
Every lesson paints
I had that
the
album.
past so clear. History's hero drawing near. In his chalkboard kingdom of dreams take flight. In his YouTube world sharing light.
This has got
From
really good
ancient
drums.
wars to modern dreams, his voice and echo on the screen. His chalkboard kingdom of dreams take flight. In his YouTube world sharing light. From ancient wars to modern dreams, his voice and echo on the screens.
I love taking that
Terry
from it.
keeps us fighting on. Mr. Terry keeps us fighting on. Knowledge battles, ignorance gone.
I love that line.
Inspire the spark within our bones. History lives in every home. Old maps on
Lyrically, I think this song's the best too. Some of my favorite lines in here are let me see. No textbook cage can hold his fire. That one's pretty good, but shoot, where is it? So the chorus, Mr. Terry keeps us fighting on. I love this. Knowledge battles, ignorance gone. Knowledge battles, ignorance. Knowledge battles, ignorance. Thank you, David. Paying for the album here. By the way, here's a link that all of you guys. Oh, whoop. Let me give you the link to this. If you guys want to download any of these songs, you can play with them too. If you put them into Suno AI as well, which is a free service, you can edit them if you want and do like you can mess with any audio. Pretty fun. Anyway, there is a link to this. All right, let me go back to this part. But yeah, this is my favorite song.
fire, the spark within our bones. History
Thank you, David.
lives in every home. Old maps unfurl like tales untold, exploring worlds where truth unfolds. No textbook cage can hold his fire. His passion fuels our wild desire. He breaks the chains of time and space, a virtual guide to a better place. In every frame his spirit shines. He teaches
Drums are so
love
good in
through
it.
the fall lines. Every story has its twist and burn.
The bass pedal, man.
Mr. Terry makes us yearn for justice, hope, a wiser year. In every word he draws us near. Mr. Terry keeps us fighting on. Knowledge battles, ignorance gone. Inspire the spark within our bones. History lives in every home. Old maps unfold like
Another bridge.
tales untold.
This bridge is way good.
Exploring worlds where truth unfolds. No textbook cage can hold his fire. His passion fuels our wild zone. He
why
breaks the
I
chains
pronounce
of
it that
time and
way.
space. Virtual guide to a better place. In every frame his spirit shines. He teaches love through the fault lines. Every
I like that
story
one.
has its twist and burn. Mr. Terry makes us yearn for justice, hope, a wiser year. In every word he draws us near. Mr. Terry has his twist and burn. Mr. Terry makes us yearn.
Ah, I love how that one ends. Love how that one ends. I feel like I know it'd be lame if you were a band. You could use so many AI things to get inspired. I know that might seem wrong, but like so many of these, like these like melodies, they're the professional level melodies, like for real. Like you could make this and do a live version of all this stuff, and it would be a freaking good thing. You know what I mean? All right, this song is the closer. This next song is the closer of the album. It's really good. It climaxes and envelops the whole, like, I feel like message of the album and stuff. So it's really good. It's got some really good lines in it. The last two songs have the best lyrics, are the best lyrically. And for example, this one's called From the Trenches to the Moon. So you'll see the context of it, but talk about learning about history. All right, check this out. But this is the final closer song. But it's got that feel. I love Story of the Year.
Mr. Terry stands tall. Bucks dusted endless quest. YouTube channel, he gives his all. Chalkboard for your dreams at night. Lessons come alive in frame. History
left the
I feel like we're probably around the same age.
Chalkboard warrior dreams ignite. Lessons come alive in frame. History echoes through the night. Aspire hearts, forget the fame. Mr. Terry, teach us true.
Fire hard, forget the pain.
Worlds colliding, one and two.
Wolf in the morning.
Videos, bright and endless night. Knowledge flows with all your might. Wars and peace, tales untold. Ancient whispers, modern screams. Sunless struggles, courage bold. Past and present, tangled dreams. Camera clicks, passion flame. Episodes of truth unfurled. Dedicated teachers aim.
I love this.
Change each mind, change the world.
First solo.
From the trenches to the moon, every story wrapped in gold. Mr. Terry tunes in tune. Brave explorers standing bold. Mr. Terry, teach us true. Worlds colliding, one and two. Videos, bright and endless night. Knowledge flows with all your might. Knowledge flows with all your might. Your knowledge flows with all your might. Wars and peace tales untold. Ancient whispers, modern screams. Silent struggles, courage bold. Past and present, tangled dreams. Camera clicks, passion flame. Episodes of truth unfurled. Dedicated, teachers aim. Change each mind, change the world. From the trenches to the moon, every story wrapped in gold. Mr. Terry tunes in tune. Brave explorers standing bold. Knowledge flows with all your might. Your knowledge flows with all your love. From the trenches to the moon, every story wrapped in gold. Mr. Terry tunes in tune. Brave explorer standing bold.
That's it. That's the album. That's the album. I'm gonna give you one bonus song. It was made by a streamer, musician friend, a super talented guy. You'll see me do a lot of I play his videos a lot. Hot Dad. He did one in Suno, and I don't know why I love it. It is a sad Christmas song. A sad Christmas song that I could see like Taylor Swift singing or something. It's called, this is a bonus one. This was not mine. I do have class. I actually need to edit a video real quick, but I'm having too much fun with you guys. This one is just for fun. Tell me what you guys think of this. This is called Christmas Pain in Christmas Town. Got a great chorus.
I wish that you were here Christmas time in my home. But Santa Claus is crying in the chowder windows.
Whoever the chowder man
I'm
is.
drowning in the sorrow, lost presents and love. There's Christmas pain in Christmas town. Bottle in my hand, try to drink it away. Snow is falling down, I'm so cold and afraid. Baby, I need you in my life, but you ain't coming round. There's Christmas pain in Christmas town. I wish that you were here Christmas time in my home. But Santa Claus is crying in the chowder windows. I'm drowning in the sorrow, lost presents
Yay! All right. That was just fun. I also made some history themed songs. How can I send you? Discord. There's go to the Discord server, go to media, the media channel, and you guys can post any music you want. 4-hour work week. There's a district that's thinking about it. Probably more doable in like secondary education where you don't need babysitters, but it would be a big problem for elementary schools because of childcare. So that was a win. I don't know. I mean, I think each played to their base is fine. There's no winners, you know what I mean? But all right, guys. I do need to head out. I gotta finish editing. I gotta edit this video. And make a freaking thumbnail and stuff. I've been putting stuff off. Hopefully you guys like the live stream of doing the debate. I think it'll be fun to do this. I want to do an election night thing. I mean, I don't think we're gonna compare with viewers of like, I mean, who are the big commentators that'll be doing Destiny or Hassan Piker? So I'm sure we won't get 100,000 people, you know, but we'll see how it goes. But I appreciate you guys hanging out, being really cool to each other. And this was fun. This is very fun. Yeah, join the Discord. Professor Watch doing that. And yeah. Anyways, yeah, we'll see you all next time. We'll end the way we always do with some outro stuff not made by me. And we'll go from there. All right, let's get we'll build the flag. What do we want? Okay, common viewers. What do you guys know my outro stuff? What do we want? Do we want Yugoslavia forever? It's Jover. That'd be a pretty good one for tonight. We'll definitely build the flag. We can go Elon Musk. We can go the speaking in tongues reggae song. That's super fun. The American Mario Nasty Now. Sucking on my tendies. We need some, oh man, we need some, you know what? Somebody wanted reggae earlier, didn't you? I'm sorry if you go to one of those churches where they like speak in tongues. Or they speak in tongues, but this song just makes fun of it. If you guys know Andre Antunes, he'll take these funny viral clips and make a song out of them. And this one's super funny from one of those like speaking in tongues pastors and made a killer great reggae song out of it. I think we'll have to watch that. All right, tell me what you guys think of this, but I'm going to go ahead and shift over here and we'll be calling it. So let me go ahead and do this. All right, enjoy.
nation stood strong, Yugoslavia. Under leadership of a visionary man, Joseph Tito, the leader of our land. Oh, Yugoslavia forever, our spirit never dies. In our hearts we hold the memories, reaching for the skies. Tito's legacy lives on in every heart and soul. United we stand as one nation. Oh, hey, yeah. By my brotherhood, diversity embrace, with unity and peace, we found our grace. From Slovenia to Macedonia, Bosnia to Serbia, together we fight, no obstacle we couldn't sever. Ah. In the heart of Europe, a nation stood strong, Yugoslavia, where all could belong. Under the leadership of a visionary man, Joseph Tito, the leader of our land. Yugoslavia forever, our spirit never dies. In our hearts we hold the memories, reaching for the skies. Oh, Tito's legacy lives on in every heart and soul. United we stand as one nation. Oh, hey, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Through the valleys and mountains, we'll stand side by side. Tito's vision, our eternal God. Yugoslavia forever, spirit never dies. No, it don't. Our spirit never dies. It just won't die. It won't die. It won't die. Can't die. Tito's legacy lives on. Orange man bad, China scary. Fund the police and grow our military. Ignore the fact that Biden's dying. Keep hammering on how Trump is lying. The media is where we vent and manufacture your consent. We just want you all to feel much better before you remember to vote in November. And don't listen to those commies say it's Joe, Joe, it's Joe, Joe, it's Joe, but just admit that it is Joe. It's over, Joe, it's over. Tell Joe to go, it's Joe, just vote blue no matter who. Either way, the whole world's future rests on you. Your pack has us under their control. Fascism won't take root if you play your role. Ultimately, it's not our call, 'cause climate change will kill us all. Eventually, anyway, vote for Joe. I don't want to hear you say it's over, Joe. It's Joe, but just admit that it is Joe. It's over, Joe. It's over. It's Joe. It's Joe. It's over, Joe. It's Joe.
That's why we'll build the flag. Make America Army number 2. Ooh. Big country, land of free. Statue of Liberty. She's scowling at anyone who arrives illegally. Please build the flag. We've got to build the flag. It will protect our borders, save our jobs. We'll build it up. We're gonna make America big and strong. We'll build the flag, and then the government will be profitable. We've got to build the flag. Donald Trump always says we've got to build the flag. He's working hard for our nation. The stars and stripes pave the way, and Mexico will pay to assemble the flag. Yeah. Oh. During the sporting games, athletes should build the flag. Kids build the flag at school. Could be a law or rule. Stand up for what is right. Let's build the flag tonight. Say for more unity. Start us who need us, country. Please build the flag. We've got to build the flag. It will protect our borders, save our jobs. We'll build it up. We're gonna make America big and strong. We'll build the flag, and then the government will be profitable. We've got to build the flag. We've got to build the flag. It will be good fortunes, create more cars. We'll build it up. We're gonna defeat ISIS using flag. We'll build the flag. Our parts of flag should be American made. We've got to build the flag.
Hey, it's Hot Dad here. Thanks a lot for
Elon Musk, the first one to launch a car into space. Eventually, we'll drive cars from Earth to that place. He'll build a bridge, it'll reach from the surface to the stars. But we can get away soon to the moon or maybe the Mars. Elon Musk is the best space guy. Put the cars in space with the all-wheel drive. Don't wanna be stopped by rough space terrain. A slipping during this space road lane change. What if Elon Musk could put more cars in outer space, enabling road trips to almost every single place in the galaxy? It'd probably be a lot of fun. And not one car, at least 2 cars into space, and it'll be really great. I'll drive with Elon Musk, just our 2 cars in space. Roll the windows down, space wind warm against my face. Perhaps the OJ could have fled in his Bronco into space. Space helicopters above filming interstellar low-speed chase. Elon Musk is the top king boss. His brain overflowing deep space thoughts. Float through an automatic space car wash, then zero-G loader in a cool parking lot. Elon Musk has gotta crush his foes, and by his foes I mean Jeff Bezos. From Origin SpaceX to focus his cars, it's a hot rod galaxy right up the stars. What if Elon Musk can put more cars in outer space, enabling road trips to almost every single place in the galaxy? It'd probably be a lot of fun. He's not gonna do it once, he's gonna do it twice, and that'll be really Elon Musk, car in space. There won't be enough. 2 car, 3 car, 4 car, 5 car, 6 into space would be really slick. Elon Musk, cars in space. There won't be enough. He should put some cars in heaven as well. Feel that cars should also be in hell. The angels singing.
Now we know who we are. Fly no more. We just drive the cars.
Angels, demons, aliens galore. All inside a Tesla, close the door.
We are so grateful for your lucky luck. This calls for a celebration.
Kissing, hugging, gazing at their love. Elon Musk. What if Elon Musk can put more cars in outer space, enabling road trips to almost every single place in the galaxy? It'd probably be a lot of fun. up at a neighboring stop. Teach my alien son to drive. His name is Bryce. When he turns 16, he can get his license and drive anywhere he likes. And it'll be really nice. Not one car, at least 2 cars into space. And it'll be really great. He's not gonna do it once, he's gonna do it twice. And that'll be really nice. Cars are a shining achievement of the human race. Launch him into outer space. Elon Musk planets have a giant tire as the ring. Makes a lot of sense to me. Elon Musk planets have a giant tire as the ring. Yeah, makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, makes a lot of sense to me.